Montreal saw it all. We had great battles up and down the field. We saw new winners crowned in GT4 and GT3 AM, while in TCR and GT3 Pro, our round one winners reigned supreme. Welcome to the live coverage for rounds 3 and 4 of the Sim 3D GT series by FTR Events, live and exclusive on Total Sim Sport. We've travelled some 5,700 miles across the pond to the iconic Nürburgring circuit. Above all other circuits, the Nürburgring has the history and tradition which is intertwined with all that is motorsports itself. The green hell, as Sir Jackie Stewart memorably described it, has been thrilling and terrifying drivers in equal measures since 1927, and any event here remains one of the highest spectacle and challenges on the sporting calendar. The first race today will be taking place on the GP layout. It's the more conventional layout comprising of 16 corners over around 3.2 miles. We've seen great races here in the past. My mind always goes back to 2007 where we saw all that action at Turn 1 in the rain, or 2009 when Mark Webber took his first Formula 1 victory. You know, as I just alluded to, we have two races today. After about 2.5 hours of racing around the GP track, we'll be swapping it out for the behemoth, which is the Nordschleife, where we'll do it all again. Joining me, Sebastian Boscher-Williams, in the commentary booth today is the ever-talented Sean Cranley-Swash, who is working his magic on production once again. Joining us later will be the ever-talented Chris Rowlands, but right now I'm joined by the wonderful Paul Walsh. Paul, good afternoon. As I mentioned, you know, we're racing at two tracks today, both very different characteristics. How do you think that's going to affect our drivers out there today?
Oh, good afternoon to you, Seb, and good afternoon to all those you guys and girls tuning in today. And well, to answer your question, Seb, I think it's the case that this is really going to be two very unique changes, whereby on the GP Strecker layout, the first of our 2 rounds today, I think our drivers are going to be seeing a more conventional layout, and the challenge there, or the effect on our drivers, will be about delivering that pace lap after lap, and really focusing on battling with the drivers around them over the course of the duration. Whereas when we head to the Nordschleife, it will be just as much about chasing down your opponent and holding them off as it will be about survival, because at the end of the day, the green hell, as it is nicknamed, is one of those circuits whereby you have to conquer the beast that is the track. And I think some drivers who may not be as experienced at the circuit maybe find themselves a little bit more worried about the edge of the circuit, with the fact that only one corner, if you run slightly wide, you may end up in the barrier, alternatively seeing the car go very far away from the road surface, where of course in the first round it's the case that you've got quite a nice load of runoff areas, and at the same time as well, it's a much more forgiving circuit. So I think it's going to be one of those cases, it's almost like heaven and hell, if you will, whereby the first round of today will be quite heavenly and it will be about the racing, whereas it'll be a bit of a hell for most drivers in the second instance, and they'll be focusing more on about keeping it on track.
And that's certainly very true, and I like referring to race 2 as hell. Of course, it is known as the green hell. Looking on track at the moment, we're still in the practice session, so every driver just getting out there and doing their final preparations before we head into race 1. This is who is this? This is Alistair Catchpole, 3rd place at the moment in the GT4. You see, one of the many Aston Martin cars that will be on track today. Only one Porsche turning up, and that's Ed Kokstas in the Backmarker Racing orange entry, so heavily dominated by Aston Martins in the GT4. Talking of cars that we don't see that often, here's the Track Limits Racing TCR and a Audi TCR, and yeah, not many of those on track. Everybody preferring the slightly newer and exciting Hyundais, but always nice to see the original TCR out there. And actually, we just see coming through onto the straight, Paul, that, you know, we've got multi-class here, and we've got such a pace disparity, haven't we, between the GT3s and the TCRs. That's going to be really tricky for our drivers out there.
Oh, indeed. And one of the changes, when you say about the pace disparity, it'll be very noticeable, not just on the straights, but also in the corners, whereby our GT3s, with the downforce they have available to them, and also the ability to really push the car based on the preload differential, it will mean that the GT3s will carry so much more speed from corner to corner. And we'll see it, for example, here, as we do see Jason Fryer making his way down towards the hairpin, where you can see the Porsche 911 going around on the inside line there, and intersecting ahead of the, where's the Hyundai TCR car, and then being tucked in behind the Aston Martin. starting, but it'll be one of those cases, not just the straights, but being caught out on those corners. And, well, if a GT3 driver's impatient and they get caught up behind a GT4, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of a nudge potentially, or a little bit of a heart in the mouth, got to slam on the brakes at the last possible moment.
Yeah, as we see the Stage 1 Racing green car having a mighty accident outside of the Schumacher S's, and I think that's one of the misunderstandings in traffic that you were alluding to there, Paul. You know, so it's quite a good track for overtaking around here. You know, we always see good racing whenever a racing series goes to the Nürburgring, but where do you expect to see most of the action, especially in terms of faster cars being able to get past their slower counterparts?
So I'd definitely say there's some obvious places, such as the start-finish line and the run down into turn 1, the start of the Mercedes arena. I also do think that turn 3, so the second of the 2 core corners in the Mercedes arena, may lend itself to some rather interesting dives to the inside and some overtakes. And then also we do have the run from the Mercedes arena up towards turns 5 and 6, which always generates some fantastic action if a driver's got a good run. Also Dunlop Cura at the hairpin, as we see here, Stage 1 Racing's David Van Zlambroek coming out of the corner and making his way up the hill towards the Schumacher S's. And then last but not least, the run up towards what is known as the Vidal chicane or the NGK chicane, depending on your preference and nomenclature. That can also lead to some overtaking moments. And James Carr from Track Limit Racing TCR currently making his way up towards said chicane. So there's good opportunities here, but there will be, I think, some instances where some drivers really do have to send it and really make that authority, though I'm coming through whether you like it or not.
As we see the Stage 1 Racing Senior GT car making his way around, and the SimSport Josh Wiggins at the wheel of that BMW, just making his way past a little bit of traffic. We have a few parish notices, as it were. We, of course, have got used to the 3D SimSport drivers out on track, but they have been rebranded, moving over to the Brabham team name. So if you see any Brabham entries, they have just moved over. So the same drivers and same cars, as we see actually one of them now, Brabham eSports Blue, the number 27. And I believe that they might be Paul, because one of the Brabham entries was he's got a qualifying ban for an incorrect car number, and I wonder if it is that GT4, because I don't think it's necessarily lining up with the rest of the numbering scheme it is. So Stephen Walker, Brabham eSports Blue, is going to have a qualifying ban, and that's going to be huge for them, isn't it?
It is indeed, and particularly in this race, because whilst we talked about overtaking is highly possible, and we do have 2.5 hours of racing around here at the GP circuit, at the same time, if you're starting from the back of your respective class, coming through the order can be challenging, because whilst it's good at overtaking this circuit, at the same time, it's a very easy circuit to defend at if you know where to place the car, and I think the Brabham eSports Blue team have really got the odds stacked against them.
They do indeed, as we have moved into our qualifying session. And unlike the first 2 rounds of FTR, we have a solo qualifying session. So all of the drivers making their way out on track by themselves. They've got 4 laps and 50 minutes to do so. So we have no inter-team battles. We saw, I think it was the TCRs. I can't quite recall the team name, but we saw TCR teams, especially last round at Montreal, slipstreaming off each other to gain the advantage. None of that can take place. So we will see what's going to happen. And, you know, so as I was saying, Paul, you know, we have had open qualifying for pretty much all FTR rounds, if my memory recalls right. How different is it now that you're going to be by yourself for those 4 laps? You know, how much is that going to impact our drivers?
I think the net impact is, and talking from a little bit of experience in my own sim racing career, it depends on what kind of driver you are. Some drivers really do prefer having that slipstream to go for, particularly working with another driver. It gives them that boost on the straights, and also it gives them a pace car to work with, particularly if the driver in front of you is, say, running a near identical time, or perhaps is a tenth faster or a tenth slower. You can use them as your pace marker to know whether your lap's going right, and therefore it gives you a bit of a boost. Whereas other drivers may wish to qualify within clear S. They don't have anybody in front of them, or they may look to catch a driver, particularly in the last straight before the final corner, and that just gives them that little bit of a boost to the finish line. So it'll be interesting to see the trade up here, because I think some drivers will now enter a comfort zone, which is they'll be used to essentially being out on circuit. There's no pressure. They don't have to think about drivers coming up behind. Whereas other drivers who are very used to, as you say, Seb, with regards to running the slipstream of a potential teammate or trying to grab that last minute slipstream, that for them might be putting them out of their comfort zone, and perhaps they'll be thinking to themselves, where's the toe I need to be able to gain that 2/10 of a lap time? So it'll be interesting to see how it shapes the grid up, given the fact that we do have so many drivers taking to the circuit.
Will be Jack Stiles at the moment for Orbit Motorsports Mars, and he is on his out lap, just building the tyre temperature in that high and die to absolutely smash it out of the final corner and go for his fastest lap. So through the chicane he goes, building up his lap, and see a lap on board, or at least off board, with a TCR, our slowest class around this track, but certainly not slow in any other regard. These will frighten you if you ever get the chance to drive in one. So let's have a lap on board. And Paul, why don't you have a little bit of a, talk us through this lap.
As he makes his way down towards the hairpin and turn one, breaking the 100 meter board and going all the way down to first gear here, going past the apex and immediately building that throttle back up, getting the car to the right here to go into the Mercedes arena, rolling the car back into second gear under braking, and through turn two, getting on the throttle early, using the width of the corner, and now braking into three. You want to brake as late as possible here and point the nose in, particularly in the front engine front wheel drive car in the TCR class, and as he comes through in first gear, back up to second, to settle the car before getting on the throttle to exit the Mercedes arena. That's the first major part of the circuit complete. Now the circuit opens up a little bit as he makes his way down towards turn 5, braking at the off-road there, and as he rolls his way through in third gear, coming down into turn number 6, going down to second, goes a little bit wide of apex there, but can take a late apex and get away with it. Now the long run down towards the Dunlop curve, the hairpin to turn number 7 here, and now many a driver will take it in a V shape, and we're going to most likely see that here as he dives into the corner, coming all the way down the gearbox to second gear, and in fact taking a bit of a U-shape approach in the end as he accelerates out and making his way up towards the Schumacher S. Now the circuit transitions from tight compacted corners to a bit more open flow as he makes his way on through. Just a light lift on entry into Schumacher S, but pretty much near full throttle as he exits, now heading up towards turn number 10 here and into the braking zone for the left-hander. And as he comes through the RTL curve here, down in third gear, taking as much apex curve as he dares, he'll chuck the car to the right, so he pulls it back to left for the Steiner curve, and as he makes his way through 11, it is a smooth lap so far. Now coming into the final segment to complete the lap, heading down towards the Bogan corner of turn number 12 here, completely flat out, hooking the car over on that right-hand entry curve, and now making his way up into the NGK or the Vidal chicane. Does Jack Stiles, he makes way into that braking zone, breaking that 50 meter board. You want to go really late here and attack the chicane, straight line your way between the two apexes and get the car to set on the exit curve before braking into the final corner, into turn 15 as he exits out the corner here. Now it's full throttle to the line, using the runoff rumble strip to his advantage, and he crosses the line. That is a lap of the Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecker in the hands of a TCR driver.
Oh, thank you, Paul. I utterly enjoyed that, and I'm sure all our viewers did at home. That puts Jack Stiles in third place, around about 6/10 off the pace, so he'll be looking to improve that. In our GT3 Pro, we have Alpine Geodesic Racing, currently piloted by Eric Molinetti. He is in the lead with Campbell in second place. RSR by putt kicker. They've won the previous 2 rounds, and very unusual to see Sean Campbell in second place. Of course, he started on pole at Brands Hatch, but didn't in Montreal, and I don't know how I know that fact, but we'll see if the Backmarker Racing yellow entry can do that once again. But we're having a look at the BMW as we head into turn 5 for the 6 BMW, and it always really impresses me, Paul, because we've got all these really slim line GT3s, you know, if you look at the Lamborghini, and then the BMW is this sort of huge body kit, but it's absolutely rapid.
Oh, indeed. Absolutely rapid car, the M4, and it recently arrived in the GT3 classification, of course, making its debut in 2021 as a prototype car, and now an official entry as of 2022, and well powered by the wonderful 6-cylinder and turboed engine. It is the case that Molinati here looking very good indeed. And the one thing that is very good about this M4, both in the real world and the sim racing world, is because of its size and also the way that the car is actually set up, and with that body kit as well, it's a very stable car. It means that whether you are an amateur, a pro-am, all the way up to a pro driver, you can really feel comfortable in the car and really push it. The downside, of course, is by having such a big body and whatnot, is the car can have a tendency to want to under the steer a little bit, particularly on corner entry. But right now, the Alpine Stars GDC racing driver here showing no signs that it's hooked up left, right, and centre.
As we come through the final corner, let's see if the number 46 car can improve. They have been knocked off their pole position spot by the number 94 car. That's Brabham eSports, and they have been absolutely rapid in practice. What can Geodesic do? I don't think they have managed to unseat the number 94. No, they haven't. Campbell's come into the pits He's still got 2 laps left, so he can... Sorry, he's only done 1 lap, so he's got more than enough laps left in terms of the rules, but does he have enough time, as we see the number 94 car, Brabham eSports, Janus Olber at the wheel at the moment, and if 1 minute 51.565 is your pole position time in GT3 Pro. And we're still waiting for a few GT3 pros to set their first lap times. We have the FTR Esports GT3, 49 Motorsports, Apex Tech Racing, and JD Sim Racing all yet to put a time on the board. I'm actually just looking at the timing stand, Paul. We've got some GT3 pros. They're actually in amongst the GT3 AM competitors. So some drivers struggling out there at the moment.
Oh, indeed. And that only adds a bigger conundrum to the mix, because the fact that you've got a Pro and an AM class in the GT3, what that means, it gives a little bit of a motivation to the AM drivers, because in qualifying, what they'll want to do is set a lap time that not only beats their peers, but also tries to put them ahead of a couple of pros. So you can imagine, for example, for the number 147 car, who's currently provisional pole in the GT3 AM class, and that car, of course, being piloted by the Track Limit Racing team in the GT3 488, their idea is going to be, if they can get 2 or 3 GT3 pros between them. Right now, they've got 5 GT3 pros between them and the second place team of Matt in Black. That means when they start off this race, they'll naturally have a buffer going into the opening couple of corners, whereby they won't have to worry about a GT3 AM trying to send it up the inside. The downside of that, of course, is that when you have a number of pros behind you, and they'll be looking to try and come on through under race pace, because they'll want to battle one another, and they'll be expecting you in a way, although you don't have to normally, but they'll be expecting you to sort of sit aside and let the pros go about their business. So it's a bit of an interesting trade-off, and the AMs, I think, will take motivation, but of course for the pros, there's a little bit of pride on the line, because you're in that pro class and you don't want to be pipped to the post by an AM.
You certainly do not. This is Ben Kelly Macaulay at the moment. Deutsche Payment Death Omen on pole position in the GT4 class. And they have a 10th gap between themselves and the 237 car. That's Sven in charge of that huge ass car at the moment. As we see them just come in. I think this is to the chicane. Yes, it is. And just see how high the curbs are, and really having to Aston Martin suspension having to work so hard there to cope with all the bumps on the track. And Sven is setting up his next lap attempt. We'll see, can he improve? And drivers now starting to get to the end of their qualifying attempts. They even have 4 laps of qualifying, no more. Of course, we're on the slightly different format today, as we are having 2 races instead of 1. So we see, what can Hujas do? Can they unseat their rivals and take that pole position? Is actually the 287 car. Deutsche Payments, they've gone even quicker now, a 2 minute 1.55. So that's perfect for the Deutsche Payments cars. That's going to really mean that Hujas are going to have to do their utmost on this lap. And just as we were talking about GT3 Ample, that Ferrari from the Track Limits GT3 488, they last won in Brands Hatch. So we've had technically two different winners in the GT3 AM, but both been from the same team. But it's nice to see that Ferrari team on form, as they had a not the best race at Montreal, I think, taking out earlier on. So it'd be interesting to see how they come through the field, as we have, the timings just running down now. And, this is a really crucial point, isn't it, Paul, of the qualifying session. How are the drivers feeling at the moment? They know that the laps that they've got to do are sort of slowly dwindling, and it's coming down to crunch time. How do you deal with that pressure from within the cockpit?
Well, I think it's the case. It depends on where you are currently in the session. So if you're currently, say, provisional pole or P2, the pressure's less on you, because you know you're towards the front of your class. And particularly if you've set one of your best laps on from the outset, you do feel a little bit more accomplished. The pressure comes away. However, for example, if you're, say, Neil Ferrier here, in the RD Sim Sport 3 machine, who's yet to set a time in the touring car, it is the case that right now the pressure's really on, because you're running out of time. You've got to get a lap on the board, because otherwise this means you're starting right from the back of your class, and you may have the pace. For all we know, Ferrier right now could have the pace to be on pole, but he's not going to exhibit that if we don't have it on the timing sheet, and therefore he'll only increase the work that the team have got to do going into the race. So it's mixed fortunes, but I think everyone will feel that pressure, apart from those who've had that session that's gone perfectly to plan so far.
Certainly will. Yeah, this is actually Neil Ferrier's first flying lap, so hasn't chosen to come out earlier in the session, whether that's a late load-in or whatnot. Very unusual strategy, so we'll see. Where can RD Simsport go in the timing stands? Of course, they're in the touring car section, so keep an eye out on your timing screens for where they end up after this lap. Coming into the hairpin at the moment. His lap time doesn't look necessarily rapid, but it will certainly put him up in somewhat of a contention. Yeah, he was about almost 5/10 off the pole sitter in the first sector, and I don't think, actually, he might just get another lap, so Neil Ferrier definitely up against it at the moment. I'm seeing a little bit of movement in the GT3 Pro standings of that marker racing yellow car up to 4th place. And this is Apex Tech Racing FTR2. James Ibram behind the wheel, down in 13th place. And that's just, exactly where you don't expect a car to be. As we see Prismatic Motorsports, Athena, Emily Howe driving that Porsche. Where are they going to come across the line? And I think, Paul, we're getting to the end of everybody's laps. And I think we're sort of looking roughly at our grid for the race.
Indeed, we are minus 1 or 2 outliers. I think everybody's now said and done, and well, I think some drivers will be going to that grid feeling accomplished, such as Sven Demel here for Hujas Racing as he makes his way up into what is there, the Vidal chicane for the last time. He's on his last lap here as he's up in P2 at the moment. As he comes to the line, will he be able to improve coming out that final corner? It's the case, looking at those times, it's a good lap, but is it going to be enough? He needs to be 3/10 up on his previous best to match the pole position. As he comes to that timeline, he does improve by a 10th, but it's not enough to dethrone Deutsche Payment Def Omen from pole in the GT4 class.
Oh, indeed, this is your pole sitter in GT4. Can they go even quicker to go through? No, they're pulling into the pits. They have done all they needed to accomplish on the track and can even get a pit entry practice. And don't underestimate how important that is for the drivers. Any pit entry practice is useful. RD Simsport, though, Neil Ferrier put it in 4th position, and he has about 35 seconds to go, so I don't think he'll get this lap in, but absolutely brilliant recovery from the RD Simsport after not being able to set a time. Your first lap out just to be in 4th place. I mean, great job there.
Oh, most definitely. I think they will take that momentum now going into the race itself. They feel so, okay, didn't quite work out in qualifying initially. We had to put a lap in as an emergency, but they've got it done. And, oh, goodness me, what's happened here for James Ibram from Apex Tech Racing? Looks like he's missed the last corner completely, and well, he's had to jump to the pits. But as we come back to Neil Ferrier here, yeah, I think the team will definitely take a lot of inspiration from this, but they'll be well, they would have been hoping for another lap. They won't quite get one in now as the qualifying session comes to an end.
And just as you say that, Paul, it comes to an end. That's it. Qualifying is done. We're about to bring you your grid. In fact, here it is. Yannis Alba is your pole position sitter in the GT3 Pro category. Brabham eSports on pole. Alpine Stars Geodetic Racing in 2nd place. RSI by Butt Kicker. FTR piloted by Sean Campbell down in 3rd place. Although I say down in 3rd place, only 0.08 of a second off the pole position time. Backmarker Racing Yellow in 4th place with TLR 488. Our AM pole position in 5th. We've got Atlantic Motorsports in 6th, FTR Esports GT3 in 7th, Apex Tech Racing in 8th, RPM Racing 9th, Prismatic Athena in 10th, Stage 1 Senior in 11th place, and Matt Terry is down in 12th but 2nd in class. JD Sim Racing 76 is 13th with RD Simsport in 14th place, BRT Simsports in 15th, Apex Tech Racing down in 16th place overall. We have more of our GT3 AMs. We have SRG M4, TLR 911. So they are down. Craig Molinar not having the qualifying that we'd come to expect from that team. Stage 1 Racing Green and Sicania Endurance. 49 Motorsports, and here we have our GT4s. Deutsche Payment is the pole position sitter. Hujas has to settle for 2nd place. Effect Esports in 3rd. Vulcan Sim Racing in 4th. RD Simsport in 5th place. FTR Esports GT4 Yellow is 5th, and 49 Motorsports are down in 30th place overall, but of course this is all on all overall rather than class standings. The only Porsche GT4 Backmarker Racing Orange is 31st with Orbit Motorsport Venus alongside them. GT4 in the 248 car, 33rd, and D-Line Racing. And then we move to pole sitter RD Simsport 2 is our pole sitter in TCR. FTR Esports will start alongside them. Orbit Motorsport Mars in 3rd with RD Simsport 3 in 4th place. Track Limits Racing TCR is a 5th, and Prismatic Academy is 6th place. Driveline is 7th, Brabham Esports is 8th, and Sim Party Racing is 9th place. And that was an exercise of doing some very quick maths on the fly, Paul. But as the pace car gets going, just quickly before the start of the race, how do you think the drivers are feeling at the moment?
Well, they'll be feeling a little bit nervous here. I mean, they're all professionals in their own right, but I think the nerves will be now high. They'll all be waiting to get that rolling start underway and to see how it plays out over the 2.5 hours at the GP at Strecker variant of the Nürburgring here. We will have to wait and see as they all gradually make their way up to the final corner, and it will be in Brabham Esports' hands to take us to the green.
Will be indeed. We round the final corner, getting ready to go racing in the first race of today, as we now form side by side. The number 46, the geodesic car. And we are just, and I wonder, have we had an extra pace lap just so we get the full formation lap? Of course, iRacing sometimes doesn't give you the full formation lap. We did the same thing at Montreal, so we're doing exactly the same here. So we have an extra lap just to cool down in the commentary box and have a little bit of a thought about what is going on. So we have our pole leader. That's the white car that you see ahead. We're focusing at the moment on the 46 car, the geodesic car. They're 2nd place. So you can just see all of the cars behind them filing through. So we have our GT3 Pro standings on screen at the moment. We will.
And as we take a look at the standings there for the GT3 Pros, it is the case that after 2 rounds, RD SimSport, my apologies there, misreading my eyes, deceiving me, but it is the case that right now on that number 1 place, RSR by butt kicker FTR in the Porsche 911 on 64 points. Well, they've got a 10-point advantage over Brabham Esports, but then Brabham Esports in turn 14 points clear of backmarker Racing Yellow. So we do have quite a gap between the top 3 there, and they are 6 points away from Apex Tech Racing FTR there in P4. With top 5 being completed by FTR Esports GT3 on 30 points, and just ahead on Countback versus Alpine E-Stars at GD6 Racing. So our top 6 are really far away from the rest of the field there, but a great opportunity really for teams like Prismatic Motorsports Athena, who are in P7, and RPM Racing down in P10 to get some huge points on the board today here, Seb. Would you not agree?
Oh, it certainly would. And, you know, you get so many points in this series just from finishing the race. So consistency is absolutely key for everybody. As we see further down the field, we have RD SimSport in 13th place, but SimSport in 14th. And these are the drivers that necessarily haven't been so lucky, but we still have plenty of rounds to go. So anybody down here still in with a shout. Stage 1 Racing Senior GT there, 7 points to their name. The double 7 car. What can they do today? Have a quick look at the AM standings. Track Limit Racing GT3 911 are your class leaders at the moment, 60 points to their name, only 2 points though behind a Burt Sim Sports. And then Track Limit Racing GT3 488, who are on pole position for this race, are 3rd, only 18 points off the lead. Prismatic Motorsports Mavera in 4th place, and Sakanya Endurance Motorsport in 5th, as we now head back towards the racing action. And after that almost false start that we had a lap ago, we are about to get ready to go racing once again. And now we just watch the cars and get ready. You see all of them braking and accelerating. They don't want to lose any advantage that they can. And we'll see everybody now form up side by side. There's a gap in the distance. That's to the GT4s, and they're doing exactly what they've been told by the race director. Leave about a 5-second gap to avoid any form of collisions. They're side by side through the final chicane, as we are going to get racing underway here at the Nürburgring GP for round 3 of the FTR Series or Championship. As we head round the final corner, all eyes on that Brabham eSports car. He will decide when he wants to go. There's a BMW in the background trying to get the jump start, and we are underway here. And they are 4 wide in the background as we go green here in the Nürburgring. They are 4 wide on the background. The geodesic car is going to come under major pressure from the Porsche and the 2 Lamborghinis behind as we all file down into turn 1. The backmarker racing yellow car on the outside has to take avoiding action. Absolutely a mega start for the Brabham eSports team. They have almost a second lead at the start start of the race. Geodesic really now coming under pressure as we head through turn 3, through the Mercedes arena we go, and Geodesic having to play their defensive game. There's a Ferrari, that's the Track Limit Racing yellow GT Am car. They're getting involved with one of the Lamborghinis in the background, so mega start from them. And it seems like everybody's just settled down in the GT3 class. Geodesic held onto that position. The backmarker racing yellow Lamborghini is off the track at turn 4. Disaster for them. They're now side by side with the number 31 Porsche as we head down towards the first hairpin. He's going to lose that position. He's going to have to be careful because there's another Lamborghini behind, smelling a little bit of blood. Wide there for the number 23 car. They're really now under pressure on the back foot. We do, though, have 2.5 hours to go, and that was a really... Oh, there's a car spinning in the back, in the foreground there. That's one of the Lamborghinis off the track. Whether that was some contact, we'll have to wait and see. And that is the 77 car at Stage 1 Racing Senior GT. And I was saying that they needed some more points on the board, and that's not the start they would have wanted, Paul.
Oh, indeed not. And I think there was a bit of contact with one of the RD SimSport machines. They've come into Schumacher S. As we take a look back here, you'll see the RD SimSport BMW's just got its nose in there and a tiny little tap. Now, I think, to be fair, if the stewards are taking a close look at that one, which I'm sure they will be in the near future, I think it's the case they may be raising an eyebrow with regards to the RD SimSport BMW, because keeping the nose in there into the Schumacher S, you do need to have about a 50% overlap to be able to go for the move. And normally, there's that encouragement for them to only go one wide through the corners. But as we return to the live racing action now, keep an eye here on the number 16 car, the Atlantic Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan Evo, being piloted by James Richards. He's had a really good run so far as he makes his way through the Mercedes arena. As we come to GT4s, they come to the end of their first lap. We are looking here at this time at Brandon Blakesley from Vulcan Sim Racing, who's had a relatively good start to this race, gained 2 places since the start, it should be pointed out. And as he goes in hot pursuit here of Sven DeMille ahead of them, he's looking for the potential move, but he's not going to be able to get it quite at the moment unless he's going for a cut back here. No, he gets caught behind the P2 driver here, and the number 237 driver just able to park it very nicely on Apex. But Blakesley really going on the offensive nice and early here for Vulcan Sim Racing and putting in some very fast laps. But it is still the Deutsche Payment Defoman machine of Ben Kelly McClawley who is leading at the moment, but he's not being allowed to run away with this one too easily as they go onto that lap 2 and emerge from the Mercedes arena.
We see the battle of the Aston Martins. You see the lone Porsche in the background there. You're very much right. Vulcan Sim Racing, great start from them. The 207 car having a little bit of a look, you have to say, into the Ford curve, but thinks better of it in the end. But that's wide from the 237 car. We're going to see a dive to the inside as we head towards the hairpin. Or are we just going to play the long game? It seems the long game is just coming to the forefront at the moment. Of course, these drivers do have 2.5 hours to go, and here is your TCR field, the Orbit Motorsports Mars car. We're watching at the moment the 249, that sort of blue with yellow. You see just in the mix of all of the RD Sim Sports cars. And what can they do? They've lost 1 position from the start, so they are a little bit on the back foot, but they're going to have a look through the Schumacher S's. Everybody taking a huge amount of curb, really pushing on these opening few laps. As we head down towards turn 10, no moves to be done at the moment, but you always know with TCRs that one move can start a train of absolute craziness, and that's why we absolutely love the TCR car class, don't we, Paul?
Oh, we do indeed, and it is the same with GT4s to extent as well. As we cut here to the Brown eSports blue machine being driven by the Canadian Stefan Walkup here as he comes out to the final corner, and as he heads across the timeline here, we can see that one of our GT3s has been a little bit misplaced, making its way up on the inside as they come roaring on down towards turn number 1 here. And Walkup, having gained 3 places since the start, it is the case he's got a bit of pressure coming up from behind there from the Orbit Motorsport Venus machine as being driven by Kurza, and it does look as though, in fact, the Turkish driver behind just been passed by the American. In fact, they're battling side by side just behind in the battle for P11. We can see that, and the camera focuses on them as Langenberg makes his way around the outside through 2. He's going to go deep into 3, but that will set him up very nicely for the inside line into 4 as they double back here. And it looks though the D-Line Racing driver has got the move done here in a brilliant run of form. And the Mercedes arena always sets up those cutback-esque moves where it's outside to inside, inside to outside. And I don't think there's going to be a response here from the 2. Oh, goodness me. And, well, I'm not sure if there was contact there. there, or whether the D-Line Racing driver just simply locked it up and the rear came loose. But it's the case all that ground made has now been lost, as meanwhile we cut here to Tom Jenkins, who's now under pressure from Walkup behind, and Walkup looking up the inside into the hairpin at turn number 7. And I think the Track Limit Racing GT4 driver, they're not really putting up the fight and focusing on the bigger picture. But speaking of the bigger picture, we come back to the front here when we look at Yannis Ulbert from Germany, the Brabham eSports driver. And I do have to ask you at this point, Seb, given the fact that he's been leading for some time now, but he does have a little bit of pressure building from where's Eric Molinatti from the Alpine Stars GDC Racing team behind. Do you think these drivers are going to start focusing a little bit more on the strategy, or do you think they're still in that race mood at the moment where they want to try and gain those early places, given that we're only 6 minutes in?
From racing at Montreal, where I was fortunate enough to be leading it at some point, yeah, these drivers don't stop thinking about racing. They're absolutely relentless in their pace. So I don't think there'll be much strategy going on at the moment, maybe to the disappointment of their team, as there is some gravel dust being kicked up there. I wonder if that was the Lamborghini that was ahead of these two cars. It was. That was Stage 1 Racing Senior. So they've had another off at some point at the track. I think that was down at turn number 6. But that's freed up the number 94 car now to just be able to focus a little bit easier, not having any lap traffic ahead of them. But Geodesic, after their poor start, they're on the back foot. They're having to defend from Campbell in third, but now they are certainly on the attack as we head towards turn 10. And I think we're going to start to see Geodesic making the move and trying to lead this race. Head through the long right-hander onto the straight, kicking up a little bit of dust on the exit, pushing to the absolute limit. And of course, these cars still full of fuel. Tyres are relatively new, so they'll be giving a lot of grip, but these won't be easy to drive, as we see in the background. One of the GT3 AMs gaining on one of the Lamborghini. So our GT-AM leader, not satisfied with leading his own class, wants a little bit of glory in the overall standing. Have a look here. This is the 147 car for the Track Limit Racing GT3 488, and they are trying to get past the number 16. And that's James Richard at the wheel of the Atlantic Motorsports car. James actually has made up 2 places from the start, but that Ferrari is looking absolutely rapid at the moment. We're seeing, will the BOP or be playing a difference? We see a little bit of team racing here. That's RD Sim Sport 3 getting passed by the, trying to work out which way they are going. So that's Neil Ferrier there trying to get past his teammate. And I wonder, I just caught that a little bit late, Paul. Did they make a move, or are we sort of lining up a little bit of an overtaking? I think Neil Ferrier actually did get overtaken there.
He did. He got overtaken by his teammate, Daniel Martin from RD Simsport 2. They did the trade in the run down towards what was turn number 7, as we see a warning there for the GT3 Pro RD Simsport machine, and I believe that may have been for the contact that we saw at the Schumacher S on what was the opening lap. But we focus here on the TCR drivers, and I think the RD Simsport drivers making that switch, they may be thinking about just simply the fact that Ferrier seems to be catching, well, he was being caught up, and by running those straightaways as they make the way into the Rideau chicane here, you can see Ferrier definitely staying with his teammate. It's not the case that Martin is just simply the faster of the two and disappearing, but perhaps they feel that Ferrier is the better placed of the two to be able to defend versus Jack Stiles, who's running P4 in the class behind in the Orbit Motorsport Mars machine, because they come out the final corner and head onto the start-finish straight, where they go onto another lap, and you can definitely see now the difference in the two, where Martin's just able to pull away from Ferrier as they come down towards turn 1, and Stiles is going to look up the inside here for P3. He goes very deep into the corner there, traditional overtake on the inside, and well, Ferrier's going to try and come back him around the outside to inside, and these TCR machines, you can go for it. Get on the front engine, front wheel drive nature, you've got a lot of grip on that front end, and Ferrier coming back here and making it as hard as possible for Stiles, and I think that might be the memo he's been given. Act as the rear gunner here in the pair and try to hold on to that P3 for the time being, and Stiles not able to cement the move, and brilliant side-by-side racing action between the two of them. You see a flash of lights there from Stiles trying to get into the head of Ferrier. I think right now it's more the case that Ferrier's got into Stiles' head, and Stiles just looks to peek into the inside there at turn number 5, but he can't quite pull it off. And now as we run away down through 6 into 7, will we see a move similar to what we saw on the previous lap? No, I think Stiles is too far back. Or if he's going to send it from that far back, I definitely think it's going to be the case that Ferrier's going to be alert for it, and no, they stay as they were. But brilliant racing there between the two of them, and Ferrier definitely showing he's got a lot of racing spirit under the hood.
Certainly has, yeah. Ferrier, you just have a look there as we see on the graphic that they're about, Neil Ferrier was a second a lap slower on the last time by, just from all of this defensive work that he's doing to hold up everybody behind him as we head towards our GT4 battle. This is the FTR Esports yellow car coming under pressure from one of the Brabham Esports cars. This is into the hairpin, and the Backmarker Racing orange Porsche is getting involved on this fight as well. There is a pink GT4 as well, so this is an absolute train for 6th place, although the 249 car just running away from this battle a little bit. That's Biggs at the wheel. Eric Biggs, the number 49 Motorsports magenta car, as we see the FTR Esports yellow. Down the straight we go. Are we going to have any form of late braking maneuver into turn 1? No, that incorrectly numbered Brabham, the number 27 for this race, who wasn't able to wasn't able to qualify in this race. He's already made up quite a few positions, so can he make it one more as the backmarker orange car dives to the inside of turn 3, thinks better of it, but that's put Brabham Esports a little bit off the racing line and compromised him trying to get past the FTR yellow GT4 machine. This is the battle for the lead though. The Deutsche Payments Death Omen car, number 287, being piloted by Ben Kelly McCauley, coming under pressure from Hugh Giles once again. So that 237 Aston Martin absolutely relentless with his pace at the moment. Don't count out any of these top 3 from leading this race at some point, and I wonder, Paul, maybe, you know, we might see Deutsche Payments just almost not let the lead go, but they're not going to be so upset if somebody gets past them. They're not going to fight it too hard, just to sort of maybe just save a little bit of fuel behind them and sort of think about the long game.
Oh, indeed. And as they make the way on down here out of turn number 12, I think the thing for McCauley is he's got to think about how does he want to play this in terms of, as you say, does he let the other drivers behind him really get to the front and tag along behind them and simply save the fuel, save the car, or does he continue to hold that track position? Because we've seen already overtaking opportunities are in abundance here in terms of the different corners and whatnot. But at the same time, as we look back here to GT3s, we can see the battle for the lead of the GT3 Pro class, and Yannis Albert, he's got some TCRs ahead of him who's moving out of the way there. I'm not sure which TCR car that is, but they're moving aside. They don't want to be any part of this. But Albert now has to be in a similar situation. Does he want to hold on to lead and hold track position over his rival, or does he let it go? And I think right now he will not be letting it go for the simple reason that if Molinari takes that position off of him, it will be the case that he'll be going off into the distance, given the pace that we have seen from Eric Molinari so far. So it's that big consideration. Do you let the opponent go knowing that you can stay with them, or you believe that you can stay with them, or do you have to hold on thinking you can't hold them at bay? And well, Albert here definitely having one of those situations where he's got to try and keep his opponent behind him.
Yeah, Yannis Albert at the moment almost in the poison challenge. He's waking up all of the TCRs ahead of him. First time we're lapping them even is Tom Jenkins has had an issue down into turn 1. The 248 car, what's going to happen to the Track Limit Racing GT4 car? And simply off the track at turn 1, racing side by side. That's the 266 car. What's going to happen? Through turn 2 we go, all looking fairly normal so far. Into turn 3, is there going to be a little bit of contact? No, so Tom Jenkins stayed ahead of his rival, so I think that was just him going off at turn 1, which sort of tricked our software into thinking that something bigger had happened. But back to this battle for the GT3 lead. Yannis Albert now has a TCR in between him and his main rival. Crucial there for the 94 car. Geodetic are going to have to wait behind the TCR through the forward curve, get on power, but that has crucially allowed Albert just to get away a little bit. Molinari now on the back foot, and actually, if anything, Sean Campbell is coming into play. Into the hairpin he goes, and he can firmly see the 2 cars ahead of him, and he knows, and he is absolutely relentlessly quick, is Sean Campbell. Won both of the 2 previous races in this season, so he has form of winning around winning in the FTR Championship, so don't count him out at all. And that looks like a 214 car without a bonnet there, Paul, unless that's my simulator going a little bit wrong. That FTR car looks like it's picked up some damage somewhere.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think your eyesight's not playing tricks for you, and I think we're going to get a replay of what's happened here. So this was Igor Kostas. He made his way into turn number 5, and just a slight tab of the grass there going into the braking zone. It's so easy to do, and the car's just come loose, and he simply just had to be a passenger in his machine and into the tyre barrier, and that has led to damage we've seen. So I get the feeling he's going to try and run that car as long as possible, and I presume he was going to put the brakes back on there before he rolled back onto circuit. But right now, it's going to be about, can he get to his pit stop? He's actually coming in. We just saw him in the rear of the the camera shot there as we now focus on Sean Campbell, and well, a bit further back, it's all kicking off in the run down the start-finish straight. Here we've got RPM Racing's Patrick Gannon here under attack from what is the BMW M4 behind of Rich Crawford from FTR Esports, and as they make their way into the braking zone here, battling for a P6 in the, well, sorry, my apologies, it's battling for P7 in the GT3 Pro class as they roll away through the corners right now. Gannon having to hold on, and he's not too far behind Chris Barrett in front, the Apex Tech Racing Porsche 911 driver. As we can see, Philip Schwerker, who's gone a bit wrong there, the GT3 AM driver, and well, I think the AM driver at this point, he's having a good run so far, but I think now's the time to look in that rear view mirror and think about potentially starting to yield a couple of places to the pros. He does have a 7-second advantage over his next closest rival, Matt Terry, in P2 in the GT3 AM class, and while Schwerker would love, I think, to take some scalps regards to those pros, he doesn't need to at this point. He's only adding pressure to his own race.
He is indeed. Of course, you can tell the different classes by their banners. So the blue banner indicates the GT3 AM class. And yeah, I think he's going to have to start giving way and yielding a little bit just for his own sake. Of course, as we saw in the championship standings earlier, the Track Limit Racing GT3 488 entry really needs some good points today. And they're certainly getting it at the moment by being in the lead of the class. But you really need to make sure that you don't end up losing it through a silly mistake with a car that you're not technically racing. As the number 77 Stage 1 Racing Senior GT has been given a drive-through penalty just to compound their woes of this race. Of course, they had that incident earlier on. Actually, that was with the number 58 car, and we saw them go off as well into forward curve. There is a car off, I think. There is. That's the geodesic car. The geodesic car has had some form of issue. That was our second place car, Eric Molinati at the wheel. He's hit the grass under braking, and around the car goes, and I don't think he's got any damage unless the floor has been particularly bruised and battered after going over those curbs. And make sure you don't hit anybody as you rejoin, which he luckily hasn't done. And we have an absolute almighty crash at turn 1. They're 3 wide, they're bumping wheels, bumping doors, and that's certainly a GT3 action. Let's take a quick action replay. So as we head down into turn 1, we see the number 44 Lamborghini dive to the inside, tries to do the double. There's an argy-bargy between all 3 cars, and they have this little sort of comings together on the exit of turn 1, and not complacent with just hitting each other once. They keep on going back for another bite. That sent our timing screens into an absolute frenzy, and while that was going on, Philip Schwerker there has just leapt away, and he is now absolutely doing his best job he can. He's up to 4th place, and that was some fairly interesting racing, Paul.
Oh, I'd definitely say so. I would agree with you there, Seb. And, well, trying to just interpret, or at least how the stewards to interpret that one, I think they will raise a little bit of a question mark with regards to Schwerker's approach to turn 1, because he wasn't that outside, seemed to turn into the Porsche a little bit from the camera angle we saw. The Porsche being given that knock, but I think at the same time, the Porsche driver of what was there, unless I'm mistaken, that was the Porsche of Chris Barrett. I think Barrett may not have noticed that he did have the RPM Racing Lamborghini was in sight. I think all 3 drivers there could have been a little bit more aware of one another, although to be fair, Barrett from RPM, also the RPM Racing driver Patrick Gannon, I think he would have just simply argued, no, I made my way up the inside very fairly, and to be fair, he got the car stopped right on the apex. It would have been a brilliant 2-for-1 special, but in the end, it didn't play out the way he wanted it to, so it's going to be a difficult one. It'll be interesting to see how the stewards interpret it. Of course, that's why we're the commentators and they're the stewards. They've got the hard work, we've got the relatively easy work of dissecting the instance and whatnot, but as we cut away to the Vulcan Sim Racing driver here of Brandon Blakesley, currently running P3 in the GT4 class here. The Aston Martin trio, the top 3, continue to run in those margins of 1.5 seconds from P1 to P3. And I think right now, all 3 of these drivers have sort of established a little bit of a telepathic, I should say, get it right the 3rd time, of what is not really battling one another, all running nose to tail and staying in that formation and waiting for the first driver to make a mistake or flinch to the pit. As we're hearing that Chris Barrett has come into the pit lane, but it is the case right now. Brandon Blakesley really in that popcorn seat view, as I like to refer to it, whereby he's getting to watch the 2 drivers in front of him who are a little bit closer to one another and may go for the moves, and he's got to just wait to pounce like a vulture in a way. But he's been doing very well in the lap times of the top 3 in this GT4 class. Well, to give you an idea on that last lap, Kelly McCauley, the leader, a 202.0, Sven Demil, a 202.05, and then Blakesley was a 202.28. So he was 2/10 of a second slower compared to his peers, but he's not falling away too much, and perhaps it's simply the case that he's just nursing the car and making sure that the car can go a little bit deeper into this race and have some more pace to unleash as he rolls his way there out of turn number 12. But it'll be interesting to see, because the gap between the top 3 here and then P4 in the class, 9 seconds almost now. It's that great, and Catchpole is down at P4 positions. Meanwhile, we cut our way to Emily Howe here from Prismatic Motorsports Athena, currently running in what is P6 in that GT3 Pro class, and well, Emily Howe has got a lot of pressure on her.
Absolutely, that's the 58 BMW, of course, already given a warning for that incident on lap 1. As we see, actually, the 23, that's the Backmarker Racing Motorsports Lamborghini. And I think Stefan Jones is at the wheel of that car. He had some form of issue at the start, down 4 positions, so he'll be wanting to make his way through. Ash will be Josh Wiggins on board the 58 car, but yeah, Prismatic doing a great job. They haven't had the luck, you would say, so far this season, but it seems like things are turning around for them, at least at the moment. This is one of our closest battles out on track at the moment. I think all of our leaders starting just to think about leading the race and consistently lapping away and trying to get fuel mileage and tyre mileage and try and play to their strategies, which they almost certainly would have decided before the race started. Everybody, it seems, has got their own sort of plan and way that they want to run the race. We have a GT4 in the mix there as we had to look ahead and have a look at the TCR. This is the Sim Party Racing car, number 317, trying to catch up to another one of his Audi counterparts, the 348. As we have a look, that's James Carr piloting the Track Limit Racing TCR car. So we're down towards turn 1. Jonathan Carty up 2 positions from where he started. So great opening stint so far for the Sim Party Racing car. Can they get past their Audi friend, as it were? We don't have too many Audi TCRs on the track. It seems like the new and more exciting TCRs have been overtaking the entries, but Audi certainly holding their own at the moment, Paul.
Indeed, and there's Carty here closing up behind Car in front right now. The question is big, of course, when you're just one of 2 Audis in this class, you always want to be the best of your respective car in the class. If you can't quite chase down, say, the other Hyundais, it's one of those situations where you want to beat your main rival. So you can imagine there's going to be this little mini rivalry between the 2 of them as they race here at the Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecker. But the Audi will be one to watch out for. We're definitely, when we do go to the full Nordschleife loop, for the simple reason this car is very snappy on its gearbox as they make their way down towards the turn 7 hairpin. The Dunlop Carrot once again. It does look as though James Carr right now has a little bit of authority over this battle. He seems to be keeping that gap at a comfortable margin, keeping it a good 3 to 5 tenths as we see the number 148 Porsche making their way up. And as they come right on through, it is the case. They roll on through, and we cut back here to the battle in what is Josh Wiggins looking for that move versus Howe coming down into turn number 1 there and taking a good sniff of the back end of that Porsche, but not able to go for the move, keeping that pressure on. But Wiggins right now under a lot of pressure as he has behind him Stefan Jones, the Backmarker Racing yellow driver, who will want to take the Audi Simsport drive and gain that place. But right now, I think Wiggins has got the pace to make a move for that position, but just does not seem to have the space to be able to do so, and that can be very frustrating as a driver as they make the way down into turns 5 and 6. And that GT4 in front of them is only going to complicate the situation as they all try to scythe their way past the number 27 car, the Brabham eSports Aston Martin, as they roll their way down into turn number 7. But look at this, it's the case that Wiggins under pressure right now as Jones looks to the inside here. Will Jones go all the way? And he does think about it, but it's not enough as they roll their way out of the hairpin. And as they do, it right now is those cases whereby I think a move's going to happen any moment. And which way would you say, Seb? Will it be Wiggins on Howe, or will it be Jones on Wiggins?
I think it'd be foolish to make a prediction in the FTR Racing Series, because you always have to expect the unexpected. Into turn 10 we go. It's Porsche, BMW, Lamborghini. Will they stay the same after the next set of corners? Of course, we're coming up to the main straight and the chicane, but to complicate things further, we have 3 GT4s up ahead as we ride on board now with Stefan Jones through the kink, the right-hand kink. We go into the braking zone. He brakes a little bit later than the 2 cars up ahead of him. He almost unsighted. That GT4 there gets to the outside. That's going to compromise Stefan Jones. He's going to have to tuck towards the inside. It's now advantage RD Sim Sport. They have got the run. They don't really have to worry about the Lamborghini behind them, and they can focus on trying to get past Prismatics Motorsport in that Porsche Porsche pulls out to get past another one of the Aston Martin GT4s. Does the RD Simsport have a look down the inside? Almost thinks about it, almost contact under braking. There's contact between the Lamborghini and one of the Aston Martin GT4s I saw there in the background. That's once again allowed the RD Simsport car just to be able just to extend that gap a little bit and really focus on attacking the Prismatic car. Flash of the lights there from one of the Aston Martins, who I think feels a little bit aggrieved with that Lamborghini. That's Alistair Catchpole, I think, the 299 guy. He's 4th overall. We were talking about him earlier, and that's not going to help him try and catch the top 3 in his class, because he's been absolutely hammered by traffic on the last few laps, and his life isn't going to get much easier as we see some more of the GT3s come by. That's the number 76 car. And one of the BMWs, can't quite see the number from this angle, but that's one of the AMs and Pros. And yeah, and you know, Paul, I was mentioning earlier that we had, well, we saw actually that we had that FTR Esports yellow GT4 that had no bonnet. They've come into the pits and have been there for over 7 minutes, so their race really not going the way they would have planned.
Oh, indeed. And while Igor Kost behind the wheel of that machine, I think it will be one of those cases where he'll be quite frustrated with what's happened. And, well, I think it's one of those cases where they've just got to simply get the car repaired if they can and then get it back out into the circuit. Because finishing the race, get your point, or at least it's a little bit of pride on the line. And they will put so much blood, sweat and tears into practicing for this race today, and they will not want it to go all astray. But just coming back to your point a moment ago, Seb, with regards to Alistair Catchpole, in particular the FTR Esports driver, who's really been swamped by GT3s recently, and now he has got that pressure behind him from James Holman, the RD Simsport Aston Martin driver, as they make their way out of the final corner. It can be very frustrating when you do have the drivers of the faster class coming through to lap you, and almost in the end, when they're in that close concertina and they all start to force their way past you, you always feel as though you've been left on the sideline and being made to go around the outside. I think Catchpole's just got to simply get his head back down and recognise now the next car behind him is not one that's going to be trying to elbow him out the way, or if it is, as James Holman chases here, in the case of trying to get the elbows out to make a pass for actual position rather than just for track time, as they make their way down into the braking zone here for turn 3, and we can see that's number 191 BMW M4 coming on through here, separating the drivers as they roll their way on through and head up towards turn number 5. And as they come run on down here, James Holman, well, he's going to have to try and close up. He's lost a lot of time there in that scenario as they roll their way through 5 and 6. And, well, you can see Holman there's now got to worry about why the Porsche's closing up behind as they make their way down towards the hairpin. But as we take a look back here, and this was Cerise Fitzpatrick only a moment ago, the Prismatic Motorsport Academy driver coming out of the Vidal chicane, just runs a bit wide there up onto the exit curb. The car gets unsettled. Oh, goodness me, we thought just going to clear the wall, but thankfully for them, it looks as though they've been steered into the pits to do the repair work nice and early. So I think for the Irish driver there, it's a case that whilst they're coming on in, that pit stop, it will be done. But that will be one of those situations where, oh, goodness me, we come back here, and how in contact with the RD Simsport driver there of Wiggins, and we've got a yellow flag now as they make their way on down up towards Vidal. We're not exactly sure the contacts are instant, but it looks as though it has all kicked off there. Would you not agree there, Seb? I think Seb might be a little bit unavailable at this moment, so as we come back here on the replay, we can see Wiggins.
Sorry, I had myself muted, all the excitement. I pressed all the buttons on my keyboard. So the RD Simsport car actually double contact there, and I think that's what's caused the safety car out on track. And yeah, our first safety car caught. So RD Simsport there being caught out, and yep, that Porsche safety car certainly has its lights on, ready to pick up the leader. Sorry for cutting across you there, Paul. And yeah, this race turned upside down on its head, and that's exactly what can happen in the FTR event, and that's why we love it so much. And this is advantage, you have to say, for Sean Campbell. He was running second, actually about a second off the leader, but now he's got the absolutely great opportunity of taking the race lead. And it's absolutely anybody's game, isn't it now, Paul?
It is indeed, because all that hard work that's gone in when you've built up a gap, and well, it's one of those cases now, all that work will be undone, and it's through no fault of your own, and it'll be one of those cases where you've got to be reset and you start all again, and that means any driver who was pursuing the leader and was falling by the wayside, now they'll take that extra motivation that the leader is within arm's reach. But for a driver such as Yanis Albert from Brabham eSports, it will be an absolutely frustrating moment. You think to yourself, I've just put all that hard work and I've used all that fuel, I've pushed the tyres, and now I've got no control of the fact it's been taken away from me, but that's what happens in racing, of course. Expect the unexpected, and we'll even then be surprised. And as they gradually make their way around now at a moderate amount of speed, nowhere near absolute race pace, it's the case that it'll be one of those situations where, well, if you can imagine, it is the case of the Brammer eSports drive. I think in the GT4 class, we saw the top three running away with proceedings and open up that gap. And now, well, Alistair Catchpole, after all the misfortune he had, the Effect eSports driver in P4 in the class, he would be right tucked up behind the top three once again. He may have one or two cars between him and the drivers in front, particularly if that's the way the traffic works out, but he can take some motivation from it.
Indeed, we actually have a look at the 299 car on your screen at the moment. You mentioned all of the cars not going their full race speed. They're informed that they have to do a lap time slower than 30% of their class pole time. So the fastest lap time, you have to increase your time by 30%. So you'll see most drivers just driving around very slowly. Now becomes the game of fuel saving. You'll turn all of your safety car maps on to full. You'll turn your engine down so much because you can gain so much time from the safety cars. You know, we've seen cars go as long as half an hour extra on fuel just by having a few safety car interventions. So certainly gonna throw a strategic hurdle in the mix for our drivers. Come round the corner. No one yet come into the pits, although I'm not sure if the pits would necessarily be open yet. I don't think the safety car has even caught the race leader yet, as we'll just have to keep an eye on that. Yes, it has. All right, so the safety car snake is now coming out of the forward curve down towards the hairpin as we have a look. So let's have a quick look at your overall position. So Johannes Albert still in the lead with Sean Campbell up to second place. James Richards in third with Rich Corthor for the FTR Esports GT3 team in fourth place. And then we have Philip driving the Track Limit Racing GT3 488 car. He is your lead GTM driver and an impressive fifth overall. We have Patrick Gannon for RPM Racing. Emily Howe in seventh place. They're up 3 positions from where they started. That's the Prismatic Motorsports Athena, one of the cars that was involved in the incident that caused this safety car. Right behind them, Stefan Jones from Backmarker Racing Yellow. Matt Terry in Black. Here's your second place GTM car. JD Sim Racing 76 down in 10th place overall in GT3. So you just come round turns 10 and 11. We'll see who decides who wants to come into the pits and who wants to gamble. Of course, we do have one fast repair in this league. If you don't know what a fast repair is, it's basically a new car, and that might help. That car right there, the number 46, Geodetic Racing entry, and they do have some damage to the front of their car, so they might choose to come into the pits, grab some more fuel, stick on the fast repair, get all of their damage repaired, and see what they can do. And there was another car involved, Paul, and it happened so quick that I didn't quite see the other car to make contact with the geodesic car, but I suspect that they'll be coming into the pits as well to sort out that damage, because these GT3s are so sensitive to damage, aren't they?
Oh, 100%. It is the case. Even the slightest scratch can damage the aero, and in return, it means that the cars lose all the pace. So we see everybody bunching up now, just slowly coming up into the Vidal chicane here, and it may be the case that we're looking to go racing given the pace, or it's just one of the situations where the traffic all continuing together. And as we can see here, everybody piling into the pit. So the pit is open, and all the drivers making their way on through, and well, it's going to be the mad rush for pit stops here. We're just half an hour in. We've still got just under 2 hours to go, but this may throw a major spanner in with regards to the strategies. But as everybody comes on through, we do have 1 or 2 drivers who have decided to stay out. James Ibram in particular staying out on circuit for Apex Tech Racing FTR2, and that's going to put him right to the front of the field, the Briton. And we also got, by the looks of things, Chris Barrett deciding to stay out Apex Tech Racing FTR1. So it is the case, the Apex Tech Racing drivers here all deciding it's better to stay out than to come on in, at least to that GT3 Pro class. As we do see, it's almost like a Christmas tree lighting up right now, albeit it's the summer, but it's like a Christmas tree lighting up on that left-hand side timing tower with regards to people being in the pits and whatnot. But I think quite a few splash and dashes and some fast repairs there. And as you were coming back to the point earlier, Seb, with regards to damage to the GT3 cars, given the amount of error they run, even a slight scratch, it can cause the car not to handle as well, particularly through, say, medium speed or high speed apexes, or just lose out 1 to 2 mile an hour on a straight, which it doesn't sound like much, but when the field's this close, every mile per hour or kilometre per hour counts. As we do see here now, is the case that we do have a new leader, and James Ibram and Chris Barrett behind there. Well, that's not quite Chris Barrett, that's a GT4 behind that's decided to go out long, and I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, that's the Effect eSports Aston Martin Racing V8 Vantage, which has jumped to the head of the GT4 class. And well, this is a big gamble, but it may work out for them in the long run. As they make their way on down here, down towards the hairpin, it is the case we also see in our TCRs. We do have the Brabham eSports Brabham eSports machine. That's the hissing Sid machine of Andy Fox that's also come up through the order as a result of all this. But what are your thoughts, Seb, with regards to the gamble that some of our drivers are taking?
Yeah, really interesting that we've only had a few staying out. Our overall leader, the number 31 car, they haven't been into the pits at all, but the 33 car in second has actually come into the pits. They pitted on lap 10, so about 7 laps ago, and they were stationary for about 42 seconds, so I think that they must have repaired some damage and grabbed a lot of fuel. So they are a little bit off strategy, but less offset than, you have to say, their teammates in the lead. So watch out for the number 33 car, but it does seem advantage Brabham eSports at the moment, but so interesting, and that's why we love this series. The safety car has spiced up this race, an absolute treat. FTR Motorsport, after being about 14 seconds off the lead, now actually take the GT4 lead, as you were saying, Paul, although they have yet to stop. That means that our actual, or sort of effective race leader in the GT4s is Sven Demel, the 237 Aston Martin. So they are your leaders, at least in terms of strategy, but of course, if anything happens in terms of another safety car, and there's all that old adage, isn't it? Cautions breed cautions, and I wonder what's going to happen as you have a look at the pit stops there, and that tells us a story. You see Effect eSports, D-Line Racing, Brabham eSports, the 387 car, the only 3 apart from our race leader to not come into the pit, so very few deciding to stay out, and you have to say that it does seem like a gamble, but who knows what could happen. We see James Ibram up a whopping 15 places. I think he'll be happy to keep that going. Whether he can will be yet to see. But we see all of these traffic in between the leader and second place. And it's not customary for FTR to really get rid of that traffic. And what you can actually, well, the rules of the series, Paul, mean that, you know, as soon as the first car goes, you know, the race is effectively on, but you can't overtake until the start-finish line, even if there's a slower car ahead of you. So Apex Racing Tech at the moment, the number 31 car, has got a pretty big advantage, even just with how much advantage they're going to have on the start of the race.
Oh, most definitely, and they've worked this to their advantage, given the fact that by simply taking that position, it does mean now they have the authority to try and break away, particularly on the first couple of laps after the restart. And, well, if that works out even more as we go sort of 5-6 laps after the restart, it could be the case that we do see the Apex Tech Racing teams really gain massively and potentially come right into the contention for a chance of a podium, if not the outright win, as we see all the drivers here making their way down through turns 1 and, well, just right now, as we are waiting for that restart. One thing I should quickly point out is that incident between the RD SimSport machine and Prismatic Motorsports Athena machine is being investigated after the safety car. So it seems as though the stewards have found it's 2 cars involved in that incident, and it will be investigated. But as our drivers right now are getting ready and set to go racing once again, it is the case that it's just patience now, and we are waiting for the restart in short order.
Exactly, as we see some of the wave rounds now taking by. That's one of the prismatic TCRs just getting the wave around. So just seeing our safety car procedure play out, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the stewards decide between the RD SimSport car and the Prismatic car. That's the second time that the 58 car has been involved in some form of incident, and they already have a warning, so whether that affects the steward's decision, I'm unsure, but we'll keep you abreast of all the developing stories from the steward's room. But right now, we are slowly getting ready to go back racing. And after about half an hour of racing, the race director has decided just to delay the safety car a little bit and sort of make sure that everything is in order before we go racing. Sometimes the race director will call a shorter safety car and he'll tell the teams very quickly that, you know, it's only going to be a short safety car. We're not going to open the pits. We're just going to, you know, get ready to go racing. But as of course we had about 40 minutes of uninterrupted racing, they've just decided let's sort everything out and make sure that as when we go back to green, everything is as it should be. Head through to complete another lap. And if you're wondering when the safety car is going to come in, watch those flashing yellow lights on top of the safety car. As soon as they go out, excuse me, we know the race is ready to get underway. Now, I don't know if you've done many safety cars in sim racing pool. I mean, it's quite a unique thing. It's why the FTR has been so popular with drivers, because it does have this really interesting software with the race director software that gives us the safety car. So I don't know if you have much experience, but I mean, how do you think the drivers are feeling at the moment? You know, they're going sort of like 90% slower than they would. You know, yeah, how are they feeling within the car?
So I think for most drivers, not all, it can be quite a frustrating experience here. There will be some drivers who may be feeling as though actually it's burning down the race time and therefore it works more towards their strategy. But for the majority here, the problem they've got is they've got to try and maintain tyre temperature over the course of around behind the safety car. Because to take your point, as we see the safety car lights go off, which I presume it would mean that at the end of this next lap, we'll be going racing once again. But whilst they're running at such a low speed, it is the case that through each and every corner, they've got to try and do a little bit of work to just get that tyre temp back up, because when we go racing, cold tyres in particular can add a whole new conundrum into the mix. As we hear there that Matt Terrier has just left the pit, so he's making his way back out into the circuit. So it is one of those difficult experiences where you just really want to go racing, you're itching, but you've also got that worry now that when you do the restart, will you have enough tyre temperature to be able to go into turn one at full pelt, for example, or do you have to back off a little bit earlier? And because it's so close, it's one of the cases whereby you do have to worry about the fact that because you're so close to one another, can you go for the move where you have somebody coming up your inside into the corner? So it can be difficult, and it puts a lot on your mind. It takes away that comfort zone, if you will, as you've evolved into the race.
As we see, the safety car lights are out, which means that the safety car will be in this lap and we can get ready to go racing. The number 31 car is your current race leader, although they are yet to pit in this race, but as of now, they are the de facto safety car. They control the pace all of the way around the lap. And you see two cars behind them is the second place, their sister team, but separating those are two GT4s, and I think they both haven't pitted either. So you can just hear the car barely on tick over, just going to show how much these drivers are trying to save fuel, trying to extend their stints, and especially for the 31 car that is yet to make its pit stop. It's so crucial for them to do that. Coming into the hairpin now, still got about half a lap to go before we go green. And what I just noticed, Paul, is on our timing screen, we get a little sort of like notification if anybody sort of had any sort of contact out there, and my timing sign is absolutely red. So I wonder if there's been a little bit of a checkup somewhere on track and sort of drivers just sort of nudging each other and sort of gaining a little bit of damage from underneath the safety car.
Well, quite possibly. I mean, it's normally, I think the way our timing screens is coded is whenever they go below a certain speed, but given how slow they're going, particularly through the Mercedes arena and also the turn 7 hairpin, I think we're seeing a lot of drivers drop to that low speed. And as you say, when they close up behind one another into those naturally low speed corners, it's one of those cases where they just close up so much and they have to go so slowly that it tricks our timing screens into thinking there has been an incident. But right now, if I recall it there, we've got more names in red with regards to potential incidents than we've got numbers of drivers. So I think it is the case that we haven't had too many bumps or scrapes, or fingers crossed, because otherwise I think a lot of drivers will be thinking, do I need to now bring the car into the pit, as we now make our way down towards turn 12 and up towards the Vidal chicane, and for the last time at the creeping speed, and we're going racing, and that places the pressure now on James Ibrahim from Apex Tech Racing, who will have to restart this race. In his mind, he will have that comfort factor of two GT4s parts right behind him. That's Catchpole and Langenberg there, who will be literally acting as a little bit of a barrier between him and then what will be his friendly driver of Chris Barrett, of course, the two teammates from two sister teams from Apex Tech Racing. But then we can see there the long snake of GT3s in particular behind, and keep your eyes in particular on one driver who's going to try and come through the field very rapidly, Eric Molinati, Alpine Stars geodesic racing driver, who will be going through from P20 overall. But as they make their way through the final corner here. It will now be for James Ibram to take us underway once again as he rolls on through. He bunches the field up, and when will he go? We wait and see.
As he builds and gets ready to go racing once again. The safety car is in and we wait with bated breath for the number 31 car to go racing. I don't see any safety car going out, and he is underway, so we are racing back again. And actually, I think that was a little bit of a strategy there to allow his teammate to get past the 299 Aston Martin, so there was no time lost between them. Down the inside, though, goes our former race leader, the number 94 car, Brabham eSports car. He gets past the lapped traffic. That's crucial for him. Looks like a clean restart in the background there. We're on board. We're watching the number 16 Lamborghini go around the outside of one of our only GT4s yet to pit in this race. Number 16 car trying to catch one of the FTR cars. It's down the inside there, goes one of the backmarker racing cars. That was the yellow entry, flashing of the lights, frantically trying to get this Aston Martin out of the way. And I could assure you from the number 44 car that it's as scary for the Aston Martin as it is for the GT3s. Is once again he is passed down into forward curve. Looks all fairly good from the start. In fact, Brabham eSports already got past the 33 Porsche. So Albert, after making his pit stop, making way absolutely rapidly in this opening lap, and I wonder if he'll be leading the race before the end of the lap as we head through the Schumacher S's for the first time after the restart towards turn 10. The number 31 car goes defensive, forces the number 94 car to go all the way around the outside. They're side by side as well, going into turn 10 for the positions behind him. But Yannis Albert from Brabham eSports has taken the lead, and that's allowed the number 33 car to get alongside his teammate as we head side by side up towards the final chicane. They're nudging wheels, they're almost pushing each other past each other. The number 33 car backs out of that. The number 31 car goes around the outside. He retakes the lead from Albert, so the certainly intentions are shown that Ibram wants to lead this race even if he doesn't have the strategic advantage. As we cross the line, and they are nose to tail all the way down the field, and this is absolutely incredible driving from the number 31 car, considering that he is yet to pit, Paul.
Oh, indeed, it's fantastic stuff. But the story continues with RPM Racing. They're going up the inside of the Atlantic Motorsport Machine into turn 1. And it looks as though here, well, my apologies, that is the Atlantic Motorsport Machine going up the inside of FTR Esports. Apologies, getting to the Lamborghinis mixed up there. It is definitely all kicking off right now in the top 5 in the GT3 Pro class. And as they roll their way through turn 3 and up into 4 here, it is the case that our drivers who have had those pits are really itching to make that ground and close the ground on the Apex Tech Racing drives. But James Ibram, as I would agree with you there, Seb, absolutely showing the class. That puts him in the cockpit of that Porsche 911 GT3 in the fact that whilst he may be in a car that's yet to see the pits, yet to take on additional forward, yet to change the tyres and put fresh boots on, it is the case that he's keeping Albert at bay, and the BMW M4 driver is going to have to be a lot more creative if he wants to take the lead of this race. For as they roll their way down through the hairpin here, looking good as we flick over to Sean Campbell here, the RSL by butt kicker FTR driver here, who's got a long way to go to close up to that top 5, and right now he is hunting down P10 driver in the class there. Well, in fact, he's got quite a bit of a gap to the field as they make the way out, because he's currently chasing after Ivo Linden there, the Stage 1 Racing Green driver, who's one of our GT3 AMs, and the AM there is actually P3 in the AM class as they make the way up into the braking zone here for turn number 10. But right now, Sean Campbell has got it all to do, and well, he's got the time to do it, but it's not been the happiest restart for him as he rolls his way on through, down through turn number 12. But as he heads on back to towards 12, it is the case we see James Ibram here holding on. He's still got that pressure on him from behind, and that is Albert just keeping at that pressure on as they roll their way to turn number 16. And Albert's going to try and go all the way around the outside. Ibram has to give him the space, but as they come out the corner, they make it safely. And now onto the start-finish straight they go in the drag race down towards turn 1. And as they head into that braking zone, here's going to be the BMW on the outside, the Porsche on the inside. Into the heavy braking zone they go, both trying to outbrake one another into the very tricky hairpin. And Albert here will be trying to go all the way around the outside to inside. There's contact between the two of them. My goodness, neither one of them wants to give way, but they both just about survive that. And Albert now follows through on the inside here through 2 into 3, but Ibram going all the way around the outside under braking, and now giving the inside into turn number 4. He's not giving this up, and coming up through the inside now, that is Barrett, who's trying to take the place back and help his teammate out here as they make the way down towards turn number 5. And look at the Lamborghini of Richards, who's coming roaring on through here and saying, well, thank you very much, don't mind if I do. And now he's up into P2 with Barrett here. We gains a place to lose one, and Albert's lost out massively from all of this.
Absolutely disaster from our former race leader. As you rightly said, down 2 positions from where he started the lap in. He has a look down to the inside of the hairpin on a different Apex Tech racing car than he was trying to fight only a few corners ago. Absolutely mega job from the number 16 car of Richards, just slicing and dicing through all of his competitors, and they are absolutely line of stern. Our GT3 field, absolute carnage as we head down towards turn 10. That's a move there on Stefan Jones from one of the GT Am cars. Stefan Jones hangs on around the outside, but that is the 147 Ferrari. Can't make it past, but certainly still wants to fight the overall GT Pro drivers, and side by side for the lead once again as we head into the chicane. The number 31 car on the inside. Now that's allowed the 33 car to go on the inside, and there's contact. The 16 car and the 33 car have made contact, and the number 16 car, Atlantic Motorsports, recovers onto the track, but all the way down. And the Apex Tech Racing number 33 car, that's the one that did pit, but that was 30. That was on lap 10, so they did make a pit stop, but they are, looks like, out of this race. And once again, we have the 94 car versus the number 31 car. Round 7 into turn 1. The 31 car still being able to keep the lead, and that's certainly given the advantage back to the Brabant Motorsports eSport car, because they are once again up into second place. But Richard Cawthorne there, the FTR Esports GT3, lurking in the background. He's got the absolute pound seat at the moment, watching all of this unfold. He technically is second in this race if we discount the number 31 car. So close to contact they were, the number 94 and 31 car, through turn 5. They're almost inside each other's bonnet. If it was, it's almost more like Formula E out there than it is a 2.5 hour endurance race as we head down towards the hairpin once again. That's late on the brakes from the FTR Esports car. That's going to allow Gannon in the 44 Lamborghini to have a little bit of a look on the exit. And they are absolutely going at it at the moment, Paul. And oh yeah, sorry, it's all going on. Albert was wide there through the center S's. He's forced to go the long way around turn 10. This is playing absolutely into FTR's hands at the moment. That's a late lunge there from the 94 car down the inside. There's going to be contact. How was there not contact? They're now side by side for the lead, heading up the hill towards the chicane. It's 31 versus 94 versus the 21 and the 44, all racing for the overall race lead. The 31 car is on the inside once again. That means that Yanis is going to have to just back out of the hairpin. He's going to try to get him down to the inside of turn 16, the final corner. Watch the 21 car now. He's going to get involved on this action as we head towards turn 1. Yanis is your new race leader. Ibram down to second. The FTR car in third, but James Ibram wants that place back as immediately as we see them racing side by side into turn 1. This time it's the number 31 car on the exit, but he brakes early, tries to get the switchback, almost gets tagged by the FTR BMW behind him, and now the FTR car is now having to think about the 44 car and the 23 car of Backmarker Racing Yellow, the number 23. They're up to 5th place, so they're making moves within all of this fighting, as I think it's starting just to calm down, as that's Lamborghini on Lamborghini. That's Backmarker Racing Yellow trying to get past Patrick Gannon, but I think everything is just calming down. Paul, what an absolutely incredible couple of laps of racing.
Oh, indeed, and it doesn't start there with Richards trying to go up the inside here of Emily Howe, but as they roll their way through 5 and 6, Howe holding at that inside into turn number 6 here, and as they roll their way on through, of course, James Richards with that damage to the Lamborghini Huracan. How much that affects him? Well, it's not affected his motivation. He's looking for the move up into the hairpin. He's going to go in here, and Howe's made to go deep as they both roll on through, and James Richards up another place at the time being as they make their way through. But my goodness, that battling over the last few laps, it was the case that anything could happen at any moment. We've seen a couple of drivers tag some pain, and well, it may be the case that some drivers will be told to calm it down a little bit. Again, they've still got an hour and a half of racing to go as Richards now has to bend into turn number 10. And as they make the way on through, here is the case that Richards now trying to push on. We take a look back at earlier, and well, I do believe we're looking at the instant in the two drivers.
Yes, we see the 33 car there, so actually it's the Lamborghini getting up on the curb, and that is a heavy, heavy impact from the 33 car there, just unable to stop on the very slippery grass that lines the outside of this track, and we'll know all about that as we head into round 4 in about an hour and a half's time when we head to the Nordschleife. The track is littered with grass like that, but now the 31 car coming under pressure from the FTR eSports GT3 car once again as we have a look at the numbers. 269 car, D-Line Racing, that is off the track. And that was at the Schumacher S's, and that's not what we want to see. That's Tyler Langenberg, and at one point he was leading this race, or somewhere along those lines. So that is a very sad looking Aston Martin. Let's take a look at the replay. So it's racing side by side coming through the Schumacher S's on the curb. There's going to be contact. Yes, there is. Sends him straight into the barriers. Huge accident from the Aston Martin. They're lucky, Paul, that they could even continue driving. And that's the 207 car, Vulcan Sim Racing. That was the other car involved in that incident.
Yeah, and I think from the perspective of Brandon Blakesley right now, he'll be thinking, why was there contact, given the fact that he made his way to the inside of the second part of the Schumacher S. But I must admit, I do feel for the other driver in this instance, Tyler Langenberg, the D-Line Racing driver. But fortunately, as you say, he's been able to get that car around to the pit, so he doesn't drop a lap down by default, having the car towed to the pit lane, and we'll see them out of the circuit a bit later. But meanwhile, it's going to be the case that Walkup trying to go on the offensive here versus James Holman, as we just had a message passed around to the team managers to say we do like hard racing, but can we make sure that it's not panels being knocked off the cars? We don't mind a little bit of paint trading, and that's in reference to the number of incidents or contacts that we've seen quite recently. So it is the case the stewards are getting a little bit curious and raising the eyebrows at the contacts we're seeing and wanting people to calm it down, which is completely understandable. I mean, if it's going to be like this, as intense as it is right now on the Grand Prix loop, can you imagine what it's going to be like, Seb, when we go to the Green Hell as they make their way on through? And Ivor Linden here battling with what is, I do believe, another one of his AM peers, and that is Philip Schwerker there, the track limit racing driver, coming through inside to outside through Vidal.
Yeah, Schwerker's lost a little bit of ground in the safety car restart. Of course, he was our race leader in the GT3 AMS only a few laps ago, but he is up to second place. Tom Fain for Burt Motorsports is your race leader. He has also stopped, so great strategy there from the 185 Lamborghini to gain that race lead. This all change up and down the field. We're having a look at our TCR class, the 387 Andy Fox, Brabham eSports, Hissing Sid are currently in the lead of that, closely though followed by Ryan Chevalier from the FTR Esports TCR team. Gap is around 0.7 of a second, and in fact they have a GT4 up ahead, which I got the sense, at least when we sort of joined watching Andy Fox, that it was getting held up, as we have an 83, the 83 car even has a 30-second stop and hold penalty. That's the Prismatic Motorsports Athena car, and I have to wonder, Paul, if that is in relation to the incident that ultimately caused the first safety car of today.
Indeed, and that is in response to the steward's investigation at contact between the Prismatic Motorsports Athena machine and the RD Simsport machine, where we saw the two cars come together on the run out of turn number 11. And, well, that stop and go 30-second penalty is going to be absolutely painful around here. It's in effect here, an enforced pit stop, but you're not allowed to do any work on the car. But as we look from, well, you talk about an incident involving an RD Simsport driver to two RD Simsport drivers out on circuit. Daniel Martin at the rear of this pair. His foe in front of him, Neil Ferrier from RD Simsport 3. It's the case we've seen these two run nose to tail for some time as they snake their way into the Mercedes arena here, and not too much change between them so far as they roll the way through. But we can see here James Ibram into the pit, and he's coming from what was at the time battling for the lead of the GT3 Pro class, and I think the Apex Tech racing drivers decided enough's enough. As meanwhile, Sean Campbell here, the RSR by butt kicker FTR drivers, continue to make ground, and he's in a four-way battle here for P3 in the GT3 Pro class, making the way under break, and that's the RPM racing machine of Patrick Gannon up the inside there of what is Jones, and as they roll their way into turn 2, Jones coming back on the inside, and as they do, Stephen Jones holds the position, but as they come down into 3, Gannon's not going to give up here. It's Lambo and Lambo, and as they roll the way on through, well, in the end, Stephen Jones has held the position for now, and Patrick Gannon starting to get fighty, but in return, you can see Sean Campbell, well, he's looking at this and thinking, how can I get myself into the battle of the 3 Lamborghinis, as we see James Richards looking up the inside, but going so slowly through 5. This is going to open up the door very nicely for Campbell to go through on the inside, or will he have the pace to do so? It's now near the drag race down towards the hairpin, and you can see immediately Campbell tucking back into the train as they make the way down to the braking zone here. And he takes a look to the inside, but not close enough, as he simply has to wait for that opportunity. And will it come later on the lap? Because all this battling is giving Stephen Jones the opportunity to run away in P3 in the GT3 Pro class as they make the way up the hill towards turn number 10. And we can also see there in the rear of the picture you have got Josh Wiggins closed up, as well as Richards on the deep there into turn number 10, and we can see Campbell trying to come through. There's a little bit of a grace between the two as Richards now holds the inside line to 12, but I think Campbell's got the momentum to go around and shut the door and exit, and that's exactly what he's done. What a brilliant move there by Campbell.
Yeah, what we've come to expect from Sean Campbell at the hands of that Porsche is that's allowed the RD Simsport car to get past the number 16 Lamborghini. I'm surprised that that 16 Lamborghini is still going, of course, involved in that contact earlier on with one of the Apex Tech racing machines as we head through turn 16. Yeah, you're right, Paul. Stephen Jones has managed to escape from that battle, at least for a few laps, but Sean Campbell is looming large in the mirrors of one of the Lamborghinis. That's the 44 car. Nothing can be done though into turn 1 as the RD Simsport and the 16 car still having a squabble over their positions. That's going to force the BMW to go on the inside. Novi decides that he would rather the outside line. And there's a warning for the number 91 Sim Racing Grid M4. That's the number 91 car. I'm trying to see who that is. So drivers out there are being warned, and I wonder if that's another example of drivers who have racing sort of hard racing, but obviously the race director not liking that is we see Sean Campbell once again making a move around the outside of turn 5 that becomes the inside for turn 6. Sean Campbell now up to 4th place. Jones now in 3rd, so Backmarker Racing in the podium spots just like they were one race ago at Montreal, but you have to say Campbell is looking hot on the tails of that Backmarker Racing yellow Lamborghini. This TCR battle, though, is heating up. Don't need to tally that they are a 10th or a 2 behind them, because we can measure it not even in car lengths, in hair length. It's absolutely minuscule, the gap between our race leader and second place. The FTR Esports TCR trying to get past one of the Brabham Esports cars. Does he think about to move into the final chicane? Yes, he does. Deep under brakes, and the FTR Esports TCR comfortably takes that position. Got the sense that Brabham Esports not necessarily wanting to fight back yet, as you see the rear brake discs glowing as they head around turn 16 now. What can Brabham Esports Hissing Sid do? The number 387 Andy Fox car. Let's have a look. And what has happened to Josh Wiggins out on track? This is the RD Simsport car. Oh, and he's lost it. So trying to go around the outside of a TCR up ahead of him, and got wrong-footed, and a fairly upsetting spin if you're the driver. I mean, so easily done, Paul, but you don't really want to go back to your team and tell them that you've done that.
No, you don't, because at the end of the day, no matter how you try to angle it, will be the case. It's down to the driver at hand, and it's one of those cases whereby he's just swung the car one way and then swung it another way and not let the weight of the car settle down. And, well, I think that's a very unfortunate moment for the RD Simsport driver. But we've gone from one RD Simsport driver with woes to one who's on the throes of P4, and that is James Holman in the number 2 at 5.8 car here, who's under a bit of pressure from behind from Stephen Walkup, the Canadian, trying to go on the offensive versus the Irishman as they make their way through 10 and up into 11, and as they roll the way on through, here is the case at Holman holding on for the time being as they make the way down towards the Vito chicane again. And you can see in front of them there, that's P1 through to P3 in the GT4 class. It is the case as we cut to the leader, Sven Demmel, who at one point, of course, the Hugh Just driver falling back down the order, and now he's back in the lead of the class, and he's absolutely flying as he tries to break away from the Deutsche Payment Def Omens driver Ben Kelly McCauley as they come out of the final corner and onto another lap. But the top 5 in this GT4 class running nose to tail, separated by only 2.3 seconds from first to P5 right now. It's what we love to see as they make their way down towards the opening hairpin once again. But the question is, how long will Kelly McCauley stay behind before he decides to go for that move up the inside? I think it's only time before he's going to send it. But where does he send it, of course? Because to go for the move, he'll lose a lot of momentum. But as they roll their way on through, I can tell you, looking over at my data screen that's not on screen right now, our stewards are frantically at work looking at a number of incidents. So it is one of those cases whereby, well, our stewards have got a very busy day ahead of them. And, well, I'm sure Kelly McCauley will try to make the pass without triggering even more investigations from our stewards.
Yeah, feel for our stewards at the moment. Absolutely hectic racing, and that's only in the last 5 minutes or so. Right, Deutsche Payments Death Omen down one position from where they started. We'll be looking to get that class lead back, but of course we still have an hour and 20 minutes of racing to go. And yeah, we actually have a driver in the broadcast waiting room, so why don't we bring him in? We have one of the drivers from number 34 Stage 1 Racing Machine. Let's bring him in and have a little bit of a chat too. Jens, welcome to the commentary box, Jens. It's really nice to hear from a driver. It's pretty hectic out there.
Yeah, we've had a lot of problems with slower cars as well. From what I've heard from the other Stage 1 teams, we've not had many big problems, but the other teams have had very big problems. It's a very narrow track, hard to overtake, so I think it was just bound to have some drama and some hecticness.
Yeah, and were you expecting this sort of hecticness going into the race? Or did you sort of think that it was a sort of a more conventional sort of circuit that it might be sort of less hectic?
No, we did some practice with slower cars in it as well. And from that we just noticed that there are a lot of the places where you tend to be, where the gaps in speed are biggest, are very hard to overtake, like turn 2, 3 and 4. It's just very hard to overtake in a safe manner, which is also predictable. So
that's a really interesting perspective. You know, I sort of went into this race thinking, well, it might be a little bit easier. You know, we had Brands Hatch in Montreal, as we see your car just proving the point by getting involved in some TCR battling at the moment, trying to get past some lapped traffic. So, of course, you were one of the many cars that came in to the pits when the safety car came out. What's your strategy? Are you trying to go sort of, you trying to go to the end on one set of tyres, or, yeah, what are you thinking?
For now, we've kept on the same tires. We've not changed them yet. Our plan at the moment is to only make one tire change. We think it'll gain us more to change tires than it loses us. And the reason we went into the pits already is because we got our calculators out and figured if we save just the right amount of fuel, we can make one less pit stop.
Oh, really interesting. So, going for the long game here. So, with your strategy that you've come into the pits earlier, even, where are you sort of aiming as a target position then?
Well, from what you could have seen as well, our pace is not really up there. We've been aiming for about a 12th or 13th position. The thing is just both of our drivers, me and the other driver, just haven't had time to practice a lot, so we already knew going into this race that we wouldn't be very near to the top, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's uber competitive, is FTR, so yeah, if you're not able to get that practice in, you really suffer for it. I'd had the same issue at Brands Hatch when I was racing, so I certainly feel your pain. So is your plan now just to sort of lap away, do your strategy and sort of stay out of trouble and sort of see where it goes, or are you going to sort of take any opportunity that comes?
Well, at the moment we got a lot of incident points in the first stint with just some stupid off tracks which I took. So for now we're taking it very calm to avoid getting a drive-through penalty, and at the moment we're just seeing where we end up. But if the plan with fuel saving works out, we are wanting to push at the end, give it a last little end push.
Really interesting, and just before we let you go, are you hoping for another safety car, or does your strategy kind of rely on not getting another safety car?
We're really hoping we don't get another safety car.
All right. That's really good to know. Well, good luck for you and your teammate, and we hope for your sake that we don't see another safety car out on track.
Thank you very much. Good day.
That was Jens from the number 34 Stage 1 racing car. And Paul, it's just so interesting, isn't it, to hear from a driver.
Indeed, and hearing in particular from Jens de Roo there and his teammate who we're looking at, David van Zlamdruk, right now on circuit. And one thing I took from what Jens was saying there was the fact that emphasis about the fact because they haven't had the time to practice and really get that pace nailed down with the GT3 Pro class. They're playing it more on the consistency note and with regards to trying to work their strategy around the idea of having as much time out on the circuit, so that fuel saving, limiting the number of pit stops. And I think it could work out well for them, but of course they've made their life a little bit more difficult in this race given the number of instant points they've already picked up for track limits. And that honestly there with regards to the fact we don't want to have to take that drive-through penalty, for example. We're hoping there's no more safety cars. It could play out, but they've played a big gamble here, which is that they're expecting the race to go on for its duration now. And if we do see one more safety car, I can imagine there's only going to be frustration within the team. And it's not frustration at themselves, but it's just the race has not worked out the way they've wanted it to. As we do cut here to the GT3M driver of Landon J. Patmore, who as he makes his way down the start-finish straight under a bit of pressure here from behind. That's Josh Wiggins, but fortunately for Patmore, it is the case that it's a pro coming past the AM driver, so as a result, the AM doesn't have to fight for this position, but Wiggins right now having to make the ultimate recovery drive here after a race that has not gone the way for the RD Simsport driver. But meanwhile, RD Simsport 2's Daniel Martin still tucked in behind his teammate, and that is Ferrier, the RD Simsport 3 driver, as they all make the way down the start finish straight here. But I do wonder whether Styles behind, and that's Jack Styles in P5 of the TCR class, is going to be itching for that move in the near future, because these three have stayed nose to tail for some time and they're getting ever closer. And the one thing we do know with TCRs is when they're running this close, a move's going to come at a moment's notice should somebody want to go for it, such as the way you could outbrake one another in these TCR machines. They roll their way through the Mercedes arena. But as they come on down here, I wonder whether in the TCR and also the GT4 classes, whether we also have that sort of split of drivers who are hoping for a safety car versus other drivers who may not be hoping for a safety car, and whether their strategy is going to hinge on instance later in the race. What do you think, Seb? Will it be the case with our TCR and also our GT4 class drivers, or do you think it's purely for the GT3s?
Sorry, Paul, I was a little bit distracted by having a look at the timer stand, so I didn't quite catch your question, but I think, yes, I think that all of the drivers are going to have to be careful about off tracks, and it's such about a long game here, and it seems like now the race has settled down a little bit. Would you sort of say it's just, you know, it's feeling more like an endurance race now than it did earlier? Because before it was like a, you know, the drivers were treating it like a 2.5-hour sprint race, and now it just feels like everybody's settling into the rhythm and just trying to make their mileage.
Oh, indeed. But as our drivers continue to make their way around, and well, I think we do have a word from one of our sponsors.
We certainly do. Sim 3D, enhancing your sim racing experience. They have custom designed parts with the sim racer in mind for both durability and ease of use. And all products are made to order, and they are designed by sim racers for sim racers. Head to www.sim-3d.co.uk to find out more, and you can find all of the links in the description on the Total Sim Sport YouTube channel. And our other sponsor is Go for the Gap. Find the very best F1 and motorsport art and graphics. And if you get over to the Etsy store now and use the code TAL Sim Sport in all capitals, you can get 10% off your motorsport print. And the Etsy store is www.etsy.com/shop/Go for the Gap. You can also head over to @GoForTheGapCo on Twitter to find out more information. And as always, you can find the links in the YouTube description if you are interested in having some motorsport or F1 prints from Go for the Gap. As we head back towards the racing on track, there's a TCR just in the background there flashing their lights. But Paul, I think I spy somebody in the waiting room. So why don't we have another chat to one of our competitors?
Well, indeed, I think it'd be a good idea, and I do believe we have Jamie and Jessica Martin, who's just joined us in the interview room, and, well, I presume they are available. Jamie, given the race how it's gone so far, we've had, of course, a lot of frantic racing action from the start. We've also had a safety car. Is this race working out the way your team have wanted, or is there quite a bit of way to go to achieve what you're looking for, what with the fact that we still have Hayward at the car at this time?
So honestly, I'd say it's not what we were hoping for. I think we were hoping for slightly better results around the GP circuit. So yeah, maybe not what we wanted. Certainly considering the penalty on top of that, absolutely not what we needed, let alone wanted. But I mean, I can, at the end of the day, so far Olivia Hayward, who's in her debut race for us, doing an absolutely fantastic job so far. So well chuffed with her performance, but I'm hoping that the other drivers can come back into this.
Oh, indeed, it has been a solid performance from Olivia Hayward so far as Olivia continues to push around. But as our drivers continue to make their way around, we also look here to Cerise Fitzpatrick from the TCR class here. And it's looking as though up and down the field, regardless of which class, all of your drivers here really having to work the machinery hard and are battling intensely. Do you guys have sort of goals in mind for where you're looking to finish in this race in the respective class? Or is it a case of just trying to take the points where they come, given the high rate of incidents that we've seen so far?
I think that there's, the way I see it is that there's a kind of a split of two. It's where you want to be and realistically. Where we would want to be is we would want to be kind of 4th, 5th, really bridging towards those podium spots. But in this case, yeah, it's taking the points. At the end of the day, we know that Nürburgring, especially even just the GP circuit on its own, is a bit of a you never know what's going to happen over a 2.5-hour race. So we're just going to let the race come to us now and see where we go from there.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of letting the race come to you, we did see earlier, of course, Emily Howe right in the battle in the GT3 Pro class. There's some fantastic battling, of course, some things that didn't quite work out the way they wanted. But just taking us through, what goes through your drivers' minds, given the fact that you're really competing across all the classes, right up, if not in the midfield, up towards the top end, and Emily Howe most so, right up there with the GT3 Pro class drivers. Surely it gives you guys a little bit of confidence to take into each and every round that pace is coming.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I've never had any doubt in the pace of my drivers. Our drivers just seem to get faster and faster every time I see them. Every time they put on, they sit their sim rigs. To be honest with you, I'm shocked that we've been able to accumulate such drivers. But at the end of the day, I think it's gotten to the point now where it's no shock for me, and I trust each and every single one of them in the car when they come racing to be ready to fight on race day.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant to hear. And just a thought with regards to strategies, of course, each of your team's drivers will be looking towards different strategies in their respective cars. But are you leaning more towards the expectation of another safety car, or are you hoping for a clear race now for the remaining 1 hour and 15 minutes?
It's kind of hard because obviously situation-wise, I mean, I'm just seeing Olivia making a phenomenal move there.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah, but in terms of a safety car, it would be great because it would allow Emily and Saoirse back in the race. But at the same time, you probably don't want to kill the momentum that Olivia's building up right now. So it's a bit of a catch-22, really. Personally, I think we've just got to accept the fact that, with the amount of incidents we've had, the fact we've only had one safety car, I would tend to believe that it's not likely, but I mean, never say never.
Oh, very true. We will have to wait and see. But just before we let you go, of course, this is the first of 2 rounds of this double header today with GP circuit right now. Are you expecting your fortunes to go upwards and be overturned on the green hell, or is it a case that there might be a little bit of trepidation for what lies ahead on the full Nordschleife?
Well, I think I'm very excited to see what happens on the green hell, to be honest with you. I know that I definitely know that our, the Athena team's always going to press and absolutely make one hell of a performance. But I know that we've got another debut in the Minerva car, Roxy Gibson, who spent about 12 to 14 hours over the past week or two practicing on the green hell, inside practice sessions, inside their own practice. So they've been really setting themselves up ready for this. So I can't wait to see what can be achieved. And Saoirse is always I think Lilac is going to be in the car for the Academy team, and I know Lilac can pull some absolutely incredible results out of the hat.
Oh, we look forward to seeing how they all get on, and good luck to your teams and their drivers as they go deeper into this race and, of course, into round number 4 later on this evening. But thank you for joining us in the commentary booth.
Thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a continued great race.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate it. But now, as we do cut back to racing in, we're focusing on Olivia Hayward, and, well, brilliant move up the inside versus number 34 car there of what was at the time, as they made their way through. That was versus David Van Slamburg, the Stage 1 racing driver. And, well, Seb, it does sound as though the Prismatic Motorsports drivers really sinking their teeth into this race now, despite everything that's happened.
Yeah, it certainly was really, really interesting to get the team manager's insight, because not only did we get to hear about one car, we got to hear about all 3. So, yeah, I mean, they've been on the back foot a little bit for some of their cars, but really taking the positives. And really interesting to hear that Roxy Gibson is making her debut in the Nordschleife race. I used to commentate on some F3 leagues that she used to compete in, and she was absolutely rapid. So can't wait to see her tackle the Nordschleife in just over an hour's time. This is Patrick Gannon and Geodesic having a little bit of a scrap out on track. That's out of turn 4. Geodesic ahead, and that's Molinati, of course, involved in previous incidents. So they're working their way through the field, and certainly looks like to me that they took that fast repair that we were talking about while they were under the safety car. So Patrick Gannon for RPM Racing had such a good run after the safety car. That form not necessarily continuing now, running in 6th, but still a very good 6th place overall. We were talking to Prismatic. We had a few incidents out on track. We had James Carr and David Van Slamburg both having their own separate incidents, and also the number 16 picked up a warning for contact, I do believe, Paul. So certainly things still happening out on track, although not necessarily at the frantic pace it was a few laps ago.
No, indeed. I think all of our drivers are slowly calming down now, which sounds like a bit of a contradiction, slowly calming down in the high-speed race cars, but it is the case. I think some of the red mist has not alleviated rather than descended onto our drivers. And coming back to Patrick Gannon in particular, been watching the RPM Racing driver now for a good amount of time, and it's very interesting to see how he seems to have these spurts of pace in that Lamborghini Huracan. We do see him come on very aggressive at certain points, then at certain points in the race he does seem to back off, and battling there with Eric Molinati, and we were expecting the Alpine Stars geodesic racing driver to naturally break away given the pace that Molinati has shown. But right now, Patrick Gannon, I think if he can keep the momentum he's building up, there's no reason why he can't be battling back up there for a potential podium finish come the end of this race. Given he's only 11 seconds off the leader right now, and he is continuing to put in some very strong laps. That last lap of 54.5, to give you an idea, that was a 10th and a half faster than our race leader in the GT3 Pro class of Yannis Ilbert, who we do cut to here. And the Ram eSports driver is at a bit of a no man's land right now in the lead, in the fact that he is 2.8 seconds clear, but he's not breaking away. In fact, he's gradually being inched closer by Sean Campbell behind. That last lap, it was the case that Campbell closed up by 4.5 tenths of a second. You can see Campbell in the rear of the pitch there as they come up towards the Schumacher S. And I think for Albert, he's really now having to focus on managing the car, because we are almost nearing the point where we've only got an hour remaining, and that's when the cars do, of course, in that final hour, if they are going to have enough fuel to go to the end, they start to become a bit lighter. And Stephen Jones is also coming up here into the top 3s. P4 right now in the GT3 Pro class, and the Backmarker Racing yellow driver really pushing on and starting to salivate at the prospect of taking on Rich Crawford for what is P3 in the class as they make their way up towards the Vito chicane. And as they roll them through here, I think it's anyone's guess who is going to be in that top 3 in the GT3 Pro class come the end, given the amount of back and forth we've seen.
There it is, Stefan Jones there, finding his pace later on in this race. Didn't have the qualifying that he would have wanted. The number 49 Motorsports car has got picked up a warning out on track. But yeah, the Lamborghini of the Backmarker Racing car qualified lower down than they would have wanted, but really finding their groove at the moment. FTR Esports looking under pressure after, once again, having a lot of pace after the restart. We're sort of seeing a flip of a switch, you know, drivers that were having more pace and firing up the tyres earlier on in the stint, now struggling for the grip. And actually what I noticed is Campbell, I think, has actually taken tyres while Albert in the lead hasn't, so we'll keep an eye on that. But the Sim Racing Party car is deeply involved in a battle for fourth place in the TCR class. That's the 353 car up ahead of him, and just behind them as well, the 389 car, Fitzpatrick at the wheel of that car. That's one of the prismatic cars and locked in this battle for fourth place overall in TCR. Through turn one we go, and you just see how much the slower classes have to work when you're being lapped. You have to be so on your game. You've got to make sure that you're staying consistently on your line. Is down the inside that turns into the outside goes the Audi, the 317 car. Jonathan Carty tries to make it around the outside. Jason Fryer for the Driveline Sim Sport car holds on for now. He has a little bit of refuge as there's the 148 GT Am car in between the two are battling TCRs. Through the forward curve we go, and once again the track limits car is having to wait to get past the TCR car, and one of the Apex Techs, the 33 car. Actually, that was one of the cars involved in that incident at the final corner after the restart, so good to see they're back out on track once again. But that was a move that could have been on for Carty, but it ended up not coming off. So Driveline still in fourth place overall in the TCRs, with RD Simsport 2 and RD Simsport 3 continuing to hold out their respective positions of second and third. And Ryan Chevalier, the FTR Esports TCR, has got a second gap between himself in P1 and one of the RD Simsport cars in second place. So this is our closest TCR battle out on track at the moment as we head through turn 11 up towards the kink of turn 12. Towards their chicane we go, and that Audi looks like it's picked up a little bit of damage on the front end, so they are obviously racing quite hard out here today, but all is fair in love and war. As we head into the braking zone of turn 16, who gets the better drive through the exit? Looks fairly even to me. If not, the Audi's got a little bit of a better run. This is his best opportunity. Driveline Simsport gonna have to think about throwing a few defensive shapes as we head down towards turn one. There's a geodesic car just pulling out of the pit, so they've made their final pit stop, and there's almost contact into turn one. The geodesic car just getting past. I was distracted Paul there by looking at how long left we've got to go in this race. We've got about an hour and 3 minutes. I don't think a GT3 can go that long on fuel without some safety car interventions.
Yeah, indeed, I'm with you on that. And as they make their way on through, we do cut to our GT4s and the battle in the GT4 lead. And whilst we're talking about the battle in the TCRs, I've been watching the timing screens between our top three of the GT4s and Ben Kelly McCauley. And in the lead at the moment, the Deutsche Payment Def Omendrai, he has found his way past Sven Demmel a little bit earlier on in this race. But as they roll their way out to the Mercedes arena here, carrying it back to your point, Seb, with regards to what was Molinati and the pit stop. Yeah, if it's the case, I don't think the GT3s can go to the end on their fuel tank for that entire hour. So I think that might be a pit stop forced out of necessity unless he's picked up some damage, but we'll have to wait to see what transpires unless they are banking on that safety car to really turn their race fortunes around. But right now, in this battle for the lead of the GT4 class, I think Kelly McCauley has just got to keep putting in the laps because he does seem to be slightly faster as they roll their way on through. And as they make their way out of turn number 7 and head up towards turn number 10, it is the case that Sven Demmel continuing to give that hot pursuit, and the huge Just driver here looking for that potential move. He's just not close enough to be able to find it. But it's one of those situations where I think they're gradually dropping the P3 driver of Blakesley right now. They've actually opened that gap up to 1.5 seconds from Blakesley, and they seem to be just gradually pulling away little by little as they go deeper into this race. But yep, we are likely to have at least one more pit stop as we hear that Molnar from P4 in the GT3 AM class is also into the pits, so I think it's pit stop season very soon, as also Martin P3 in the TCR class is coming in. Do you reckon it's time then, Seb, that they should all start peeling in, or are we going to be seeing some drivers try to go a bit longer here?
I think we're going to see a mix of both. I think drivers who have had fuel in mind, as we see a TCR there getting out of the way, kicking up a few cones. That's a 349 TCR entry, one of our two Audi TCRs in the race. Stefan Jones, Batmarker Racing Car from third, also came into the pit. So I think drivers that were sort of focused on their fuel mileage will be able to extend a little bit longer, but I have to say, unless we have a safety car, and that's the BetMichael Racing car just coming out of the pits now, they are going to have to think either about saving a lot of fuel, and that is difficult and time consuming. Certainly not the optimal way, or they are just going to have to hope for a safety car. Otherwise, they'll be taking a very unwanted trip through the pit lane. You see Vulcan Sim Racing now really on the back of the 237 car. So unfortunately for Hugh Jas, who were battling Deutsche Payments for the lead only a lap ago, slowed down by traffic a little bit, and Vulcan Sim Racing now making up the ground, and they are now looking to get past that 237 car and up into second place, and maybe, just maybe, thinking about the overall class lead. But they've still got an hour or so to make that happen. As we head through the hairpin now, Hugh Jas a little bit wide on exit. That's going to give a little bit of encouragement to Brandon Blakesley at the wheel. He'll be thinking, I am applying that pressure to the 257 car. And that's Sven Demel still at the wheel of that Aston Martin. I think it's quite a common occurrence, I think, to see as we see the Scania Endurance Motorsport almost letting by the prismatic car. Scania in fourth place. They are coming into the pit, so that's why they were a little bit cautious on entry. No point in losing any more time than you need to as the Sim Party Racing and Driveline battle continues on, and we have another GT3 trying to get past them. You're not going to be able to go around the outside there. The GT3 will cut towards the inside. He'll get past them, no problems, but Sim Party Racing, Jonathan Carty at the wheel, wanting still to get past that Hyundai as we head towards turn one. And I think, Paul, we're going to have to, if you are Jonathan Carter, you're going to have to think about a very late lunge, which is exactly what he's done there. Just as I say, he throws it to the inside. Unfortunately for him, it was not successful, but that's allowed him to cut back towards the inside of turn two. Nothing can be done there. Is he going to think about another lunge into turn three? No, I think he's all out of moves, at least for this lap. But Jonathan Carty's got to start thinking creatively if he wants that third position.
Oh, definitely. And you can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to use the strength of that Audi, which is its ability to be strong on the accelerator. He's trying to go as deep as he can under braking in towards the corner, get that inside, make it so that it doesn't go too wide, and it's a battle on the loud pedal. And, well, it wasn't quite able to pull it off that time around for the Mercedes arena, but Jonathan Carty now definitely getting very racy here with less than an hour to go. And as they give pursuit to one another down towards the Dunlop Curra at turn at number 7, the hairpin, of course, you can see they're just behind them. We do have the number 269 GT4 closing up, and as they roll the way on through, it is the case that right now Carty will be focused on one thing and one thing alone, and that is trying to get his way into P3 in that TCR class. As meanwhile in the GT4 class, we can see in the rear of the picture there a bit of a battle for position P2 and also the lead, but we look to our leader right now in the GT4 class, and that's Ben McCauley, who's once again got the pressure behind him of Sven Demel from a huge ass as they make their way in towards turn number 10. And, well, say what you will about Sven Demel, it is the case he's not giving up, and he's not letting this disappear. And, well, the question is, where on earth has Blakesley gone, who we saw really in this, and I believe he's actually come into the pits, and that has dropped him quite a way down in the running here, as we are still waiting on those final pit stops if they are due to come. But they make the way in. We have got a couple of GT3s who've been in the pit lane for some time, as we see Yanis Albert here making his way back out, and he was our leader in the GT3 Pro class before he came into the pits. He's come back out in P4, and here is Sven Demel, who is now leading the GT4 class with the fact that his main rival, Kelly McCauley, has come in to the pits. And now we will see whether the undercut or the overcut will be the superior strategy, as Demel, I think, has got quite a bit of traffic to navigate his way through, and, well, this is not going to help his campaign, as Jason Fry here, P3 in the TCR class, is just very comfortably right now running his own race, and I think just hoping that the GT4 driver comes from the inside into turn 2, which he does there, and Fry just able to tuck his way back in before they make their way through the rest of the arena. But meanwhile, as we continue to look around, we do have the GT3 Pro driver here, Dexter Castro, who, to be fair, the 49 Motorsports Maroon driver has not had the race he's wanted. There has been a jump to the pits at some point. He's actually down P28 overall, and I think he's a lap down on the rest of his companions right now, at least a lap down, and tried to close it up. So he's just trying to bring this car to the end. And as he makes his way on around right now, it is the case that Castro just doing everything he can to bring this one home and get some distance on the board as he rolls his way through the final quarter. But got a lot of drivers in the pits, and well, in our GT4s in particular, we've got quite a few now making their way out of the pit lane. So it's all kicking off as the Castro here. He'll gain some places past the GT4 traffic as we see there some of our GT4s making their way onto pit exit. But as Castro comes down, just in your experience, Seb, when you're behind a car, when you've been in multiple instances over the course of the race, and it's just not worked out for you, and you run it effectively a lap down compared to the rest of your class, what keeps you motivated in these races, and what makes you go to the end for the team?
I always find that you just have to focus on something, whether it be trying to save a little bit more fuel, save the tyres. You just have to get an achievable goal that you have to work a little bit to, and that's always been my trick, just to sort of tackle these long stints. As we see that marker racing yellow car, the number 23, they have been into the pits already, and that's one of the GT Am cars. That's the leader. That's the Track Limits Racing GT3 488 car, giving Stefan Dreads a little bit of hassle into turn one. That Track Limit Racing car once passed that Lamborghini, but importantly for the lead, and crucially for the lead, Campbell has made his pit stop. And you might be thinking, how has he managed to gain such an advantage? Well, I tell you, he took tyres when everybody was under the safety car. So while everybody was driving around very slowly, he replaced his tyres, and that meant that this stop he didn't have to. So he had a 30-second quicker stop than Yannis Alber, who was his main rival, and Stefan Jones as well took tyres. So absolutely mega strategy so far from Sean Campbell. Actually, Rich Cawthor as well in second, and Eric Molinati in third. Both in their last stops did not take tyres, so that's about a 30-second difference. So really interesting strategies playing out here, and we'll have to see how that affects our top three as we head into the final hour of racing. The GT4s now, or our GT4 leaders I should say, are into the pits, so we'll finally get that answer to the question of whether the undercut or overcut is worth it, as we have a look at Tom Jenkins just hitting the pit limiter very nicely. No lockups there or anything, and really unique advantage that, you know, we are having another race in about an hour or so, but it's the same pit lane, it's roughly the same braking zone, so all of the practice that you're doing now really does apply for the next race. So it's not like you have to relearn everything. So I think the drivers will be getting more and more confident every time they come into the pit, so that will especially help them as we move towards our second race around the Nordschleife. This is the 147 car trying to get past the number 23 car. He's on the inside into turn one. It's going to brake a little bit later. Does the backmarker racing yellow car feel about going around the outside? No, he decides to cut back towards the inside. That will give him the outside for turn two, but concedes that position. So the 147 track limit 488 car once again with absolutely mega pace up into fifth place overall, and he is a little bit far away. I was going to say he might even be having a go at Brabham Esports, still piloted by Yannis Albert, but I think he's about 7 seconds off, so I don't think that will be happening any time soon. As we have a look at our GT4, sorry, so I have a look at the GT4 class, I should say, that we still have Deutsche Payments Death Omen in the lead of that class, with Hugh Jas now piloted by Giovanni Romano, the 237 car, in second place. So it's all status quo in the GT4 class, with Hall, the 207 car, Vulcan Sim Racing, in third. So that early pit stop for him has not worked out, as we have TCR racing side by side into the final chicane. And that's Daniel Martin and RD Sim Sport 2 coming under pressure from one of the Brabham eSports cars. And just to complicate the matters, we have a gaggle of GT3s right behind them, as we now see the Vulcan Sim Racing car trying to get past the 207, sorry, I do apologise, it's the Vulcan Sim Racing car on the inside being chased down by the number 27 Brabham eSports car. So both Brabhams having a burst of pace at the moment, coming through the final corner onto the straight. And it's it's a real turnaround from Vulcan. They had a lot of pace at the start, didn't they, Paul? And then the middle seemed to go off. But now, once again, all of their cars just seem to be absolutely rapid.
Well, Indeed, but as they make their way down towards turn 1, now the question will be, can Hall hold on to the position? He gives a lot of space inside there to Stephen Walkup, and well, the Bradman eSports blue driver going a bit deep on the exit, but gets the move done for P3, or does he as they come through too, and he just about keeps it there on the racing line as they break their way down into turn number 3 and walk up a position. But indeed it is the case that now with James Hall behind them all, the Vulcan Sim Racing team are really back in that fight for the top 5 and with a chance of a top 3 finish here. And I think it's the case that the race hasn't gone the way they've wanted it to, but they've settled down, they've got back on with the job, and that has really been the story to tell. But the thing that I've got a little bit of a question about is with regards to Daniel Muff and also Giovanni Romano taking over those cars in the lead. How will that play out? But we'll talk more about that later. As right now, Rich Crawford under attack here for P2 in the GT3 Pro class. He's being attacked by Eric Molinati, and remember that Molinati's been behind the wheel of what is the Alpine Stars GDC Racing BMW M4 since the start of this race. Crawford as well has been behind the wheel of the FTR Esports GT3, but Molinati has had a pace advantage that was shown in qualified. It seems to be there from the start of this race, but he fell down the order through one moment or another. But right now Crawford's got to try and hold on here, and he's under huge pressure as they make their way up into Vido. But it's the case that Crawford keeps it right in the middle of the road, and Molinati simply rolls the car to the outside and keeps on the racing line. But as they make their way through the right-hander of the final quarter, it's the case I think Crawford's got to be looking in his rearview mirror more than ahead of him now. He's simply got Molinati literally looking left, right and centre for those potential positions, as we do see a little bit of a squabble over positions a bit further back in this long run of GT3s. But Molinati going to the inside here, under braking, and I think this time he'll be able to get his nose ahead, but it's now going to come to the rest of the Mercedes arena as Crawford has to stand that outside line. He's made to go a little bit wide there, and in the end Molinati gets the place off, and I think it's the case now with a 9-second gap from Molinati to Campbell, the leader of the GT3 Pro class. Can Crawford come on back, or will he just simply follow as they make the way through? Keep in mind, of course, he does still have the best part of a 20-second advantage over Albert in P4. Remember that Albert has come into the pit and taken that stop for tyres, whereas our top 3 here only took on the fuel at that second stop, and that is the difference in the story. And I think the battle being complete for that P2 position right now hasn't cost them too much time. It does mean that they will be pressing on, but we've still got 50 minutes to go, and the rate of closure, looking at our lap timings at the moment, is a rate of closure of somewhere in the region of about 2 seconds a lap on average from P4 to the leader. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out in practice. But speaking of playing out in practice, James Richards right now, the Atlantic Motorsport driver, P7 in the GT3 Pro class, going on the offensive versus what is in front of him. The RPM Racing at Bragg Crouch is taking over the machine, and as they make the way out of the Mercedes arena and down towards turn 5, flashing his lights furiously, they're trying to get in the head of his opponent, and as they make their way to the braking zone, Richards goes up the inside, and Crouch gives him the space there, and Richards makes it look very sweet, very subtle, and gets the move done for P6. Well, Seb, I think it's one of the cases now we are seeing those drivers who have just got the pace behind the wheel really unleashing it, or if they've got the fresher tyres, unleashing them right in this final hour.
Yeah, certainly is. Not the big, not as big of a pace disparity between the drivers that are on new tyres and old tyres as I would have thought. It seems like the old tyres are hanging on much better than some of the drivers thought that they would. So yeah, certainly Sean Campbell, Eric Molinati and Richard Cawthor looking pretty good at the moment. Still 48 minutes to go, and of course that can change at any moment. Having a look at Emily Howe in 11th place at the moment for Prismatic Motorsports Athena, as she rounds the hairpin up towards the Schumacher S's, and she has the number 58 Audi SimSport car ahead of her. That looks like a fairly easy move, just so much more pace from the Prismatic Motorsports car through the Schumacher S's, just goes right around the outside, and I wonder if they are on different strategies. It certainly looks like it to me, but in the wrong way. These two TCRs just getting out of the way. I don't think those two are racing for any sort of position. So we'll just focus on the GT3 battle. But yeah, Prismatic Motorsports Athena haven't taken tyres, so they are on old tyres, and she simply drove around the outside of the RD SimSport car, who did take tyres. So we're sort of seeing the opposite of what you would necessarily expect from a standard strategy, where, you know, if you're on new tyres, you'd go quicker. So very interesting out there at the moment. Tim Darracott at the moment on board the 299 Effects eSports Aston Martin through turn 6 he goes. Up ahead of him is another one of the RD Sim Sports cars. This is a battle over 5th in class. He is a little far behind, not gonna be likely to make a move into the hairpin. But just starting to think about making a move, of course. With 47 minutes to go, you really now have to start thinking about making these moves as you're running out of time. And are we going to see drivers, Paul, just sort of hang back and sort of start attacking when there's about 15 or 10 minutes to go and just sort of making sure that they can solidify that position and stay ahead for the rest of the race?
Quite possibly, and as we look here to the P3 driver in the GT3 AM class of Timothy van der Broek, as he makes his way out of 6 and down towards 7, the Stage 1 Racing Green driver, you can see there he does have a bit of pressure behind him from Craig Molnar, the American driver for Track Limit Racing. It's the case whereby when you're in these situations where you haven't got too long of the race left to go and the strategy may be critical, perhaps you've got enough fuel to get to the end with fuel saving, but you want to be able to go racing in those final 4 to 5 laps. This is where you have to start to be patient. Do you fuel save for, say, the next half an hour and then you could go on the offensive for the last 15 minutes, or is it the case that you're protecting the tyres to give yourself that advantage come at the final 15 minutes of the race where the tyres haven't dropped off as much as your opponents? And that's all what's playing out right now, because an early gain, an early overtake here could come back to haunt you later in the race. And in my personal experience, I'd say a good number of drivers now are thinking about that, and we have seen a couple of examples of that already. I think some drivers are just holding back and getting ready to make that last charge as we bring this race to a close. We've got quite some time yet, as we're hearing that Tim Darracott has come in to the pits, and he was running at the time in a rather close battle for that P5 position in the GT4 class. He's coming in, but meanwhile here's our leader in the GT3 AM class. And I think if you wanted a driver who was trying to make his case to the organisers that he wants to be in the pro class, the Track Limit Racing GT3 488 driver Philip Schwerker, I think he's done more than enough of that. Not saying he should be changed, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, but he's definitely shown a lot of pace, and he's still running in what is P5 overall in the GT3s, and he has got the best part of 5 GT3 pros between himself and his closest rival of Thomas Dunn from Burt Sim Sports. And this man, well, it's been the case, he has been putting in stellar laps. His pace is almost there with the leaders right now. He's just showing no sign of quitting. He's an absolute machine, when you have to say, Seb.
Certainly is. Track Limit Racing, the 488 entry, really turning their fortunes around from Montreal. Of course, this outfit won the first round at Brands Hatch, but did not have the luck of the draw around Montreal for round 2. But yeah, definitely turned it around so far at the Nürburgring. 44 minutes to go, and that marker racing car, which Philip got past only a few laps ago, starting now to come back. So I wonder now if we're starting to see the drivers on new tyres, that crossover point changing and those new tyres gripping into the surface and providing more grip than those used tyres. I don't think Philip's actually changed tyres at all in this race, so it could be almost 2 hours old, but we'll certainly have to see. I mean, it's not unheard of that drivers do the whole race on one set of tyres. You know, our current race leader, Sean Campbell, did exactly that in round 2 at Montreal, and so did, it was, I think it was one of the FTR, no, sorry, it was one of the Brabham eSports cars as well. They also did the race on one set of tyres, and that was a 4-hour race. So it's not unheard of if these drivers can eke out these tyres for 2.5 hours around the Nürburgring, but we will have to see as the time ticks closer towards 0. Have a look, and Backmarker Racing, who in theory should be quicker than the Ferrari just for their different categories, but the AM drivers at the moment, as we see Tim Darracott, who was in the pits a lap ago, coming out and is now in a heated battle for 8th place, and right behind him has got one of the FTR GT3s and one of the Apex Tech cars as well, for good measure, as they head down the straight. I can't quite see the number on that Apex Tech car, whether it's the 31 or the 33. I think it's the 31. They are involved in a battle with the FTR car, so we'll have to see. The GT4s as well having a little bit of a squabble into turn 1. Now that was the 33 car, so 33 cars shouldn't really be involved in too much battling. They are a few laps down on the leader, of course, involved in that incident earlier on, as Tim Darracott now sends it to the inside into turn 3, tries to get past the Orbit Motorsports Venus car and does so quite easily. So the Effect Esports car up into 8th place. I wonder if he's taking a little bit of new rubber, so he should be naturally a little bit quicker in that Aston Martin.
Ooh,
Yeah,
but it's
but
been the rear of the picture there. There's been an instant.
there has indeed. That's Orbit Motorsport Venus off with the number 34 car. Orbit Motorsports just got passed by one of their GT4 rivals, taken out. Oh, and there's an extra accident there. One of the BMWs colliding with Orbit Motorsport Venus as Amit tries to rejoin the track, and that BMW has managed to survive without ending up in the barriers, and that was our former race leader, the number 94 car. Absolute drama here, Paul, at the moment, and when we say anything can go wrong or anything can happen, we certainly mean it.
Oh, indeed. And, well, the one driver who will not avoid to be in that with Yannis Albert there, but given the fact that right now he's having to play the ultimate game of cat and mouse versus the top three in the GT3 Pro class, he was bringing that gap down quite aggressively over the last couple of laps, but he's lost out. He's lost the best part of 8 seconds, and also now he may have a little bit of additional wear on the tyres given the runoff. Meanwhile, we do a cut to our GT3 AM driver here, Timothy van der Broek, as we see the Stage 1 Racing Green driver pressing on and chasing down Molnar here, and I believe these two have been nip and tuck for some time. In fact, I think it's the case they may have switched places quite recently as they make their way down. Craig Molnar has actually gained the place in a bit of a side-by-side battle, but as they head down towards turn 5, it is the case that, as you say, anything could happen with the time remaining. It only takes an instant ahead, and for the drivers as they rejoin, not to be aware of the fact you're coming alternatively, that incident, just a spiral across the circuit, a car to go wayward, and you just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. As we get a replay here of what exactly happened. So Van Slambrook was on the outside then. He's turned in to find a GT4 there, and well, the two have come together, and the Stage 1 Racing driver getting hitched alongside the GT4, and they have not been able to clear one another. So he's jumped to the pits, but then it's the case that Berka Koza has just made his way back onto circuit, and that is when he rejoined. And well, our fourth place driver, Yannis Ulber, in at the GT3 Pro class, came into the Apex thinking it was going to be clear, and well, it was a completely different story. And he took a very, very cat-like reflexes there to throw the car off the circuit and bring it back on safely. Well done, that man. He's caught it very well as we now jump back on board with him, and that will have unsettled his nerves somewhat. And this gives you an idea of exactly how he had to react. And look at that snap reaction on the steering wheel there as we get the onboard replay. I mean, if that's not a demonstration of the fact that he has got the reflexes of a racing driver, I don't know what is.
No, absolutely a mega save from our fourth place man. Just goes to show how much driving talent he does have, backed up by the fact that he was our pole sitter all those hours ago. It feels like Automatic Motorsports Rivera at the moment just making their way around some lap traffic, a little bit wide there. And that's the 31 Apex Tech car, and they are involved in a scrap. Of course, they were once leading this race, of course. That was through pit stop strategy, but nevertheless, they did lead a few laps as there's a drive-through penalty for the number 16 Atlantic Motorsports car, and that's one of the Lamborghinis in. They are actually in 6th place at the moment, so disastrous for them after having a great race on their side. They're going to have to work very hard in the last 40 minutes or so to make up that time if they can at all. As once again we head back towards this battle between Track Limit Racing and Backmarker Racing Yellow as we head down the straight in towards the turn 1 hairpin. And that 488 GT3 Evo looking like it's got a little bit more top-end speed, but Philip Schwarke is absolutely driven above his class today. Outstanding drive from the German, and he will be sure to... Yeah, I think you're right. I think he will be making the case. I mean, he won't be wanting to move into the pro class, but I think he's certainly making the case with his driving that he probably should be moved, or at least considered to be moving, but he's slowed down now by the 233 Aston Martin GT4. That's going to allow Backmarker Racing Yellow to maybe have a little bit of a sniff up the inside into turn 4. Nothing can come of it, but once again, 147 car encounters more traffic. This time it's the Effect Motorsports 299 car, and I think this is Stefan Jones' best opportunity for quite a few laps. Is he going to try and go all the way around the outside of the Ferrari into the hairpin? I think he's going to set him up to try and once again go around the outside of him, but this time into the Schumacher S's. But Philip Schwarke there just covering him off absolutely beautifully, and once again the pro car cannot get past the AM car. So it still remains Philip Schwarke in 3rd and Stefan Jones in... Philip Schwarke in 5th place with Stefan Jones in 6th place. We actually have a look at 3rd place, man, from eSports Blue. That's Stephen Walkup at the wheel, trying to catch up 2, that is at the wheel. That's Giovanni Romano, and it's been quite a while ago now, Paul, and my memory might be deceiving me, but I thought that Giovanni was sort of like 10-ish seconds ahead of third place man, Romano. So has Walkup had a lot of pace, or have we sort of, as the someone over my eyes, or has the huge ass car had a few troubles out there on track?
I think it may be a combination of the two. Your memory does serve you well. The gap between the two of them was sizable, and now, as they make the way down, it is the case that it's one of those situations that only a few laps ago, there was a 2:06 for Romano, and that is what has cost him so much time. Given the fact that these drivers are normally lapping in the high 2:02s, low 2:03s, he lost 3 seconds in one lap alone, and looking at the deltas between the laps, it is the case that Walkup has very gradually been matching, if not improving on the pace of Romano. So right now, Hugh Jackson really under pressure here, and Walkup has been putting in absolute consistent pace throughout, and he's now hunting that P2 position. But I think closing is one thing, passing is another thing, as the great Murray Walker has said time and time again. May he rest in peace. But it is the case that right now Romano really having to worry about what's behind him rather than being able to hunt after the Deutsche Payment Defo machine of Daniel Muth, who is leading, and is leading right now by 8 seconds almost, as they roll their way out of the final quarter once again and go on to another lap. And I think the problem for Giovanni Romano is that Walkup here has been behind the wheel of this Brabham eSports blue car since the start, so he will perhaps get a little bit tired arms and legs, but at the same time he'll feel very comfortable in the machine. He will know exactly where the machine is, where it's the case that Romano has had to inherit a machine which has been worked already by his predecessor driver in the team, and he's already got himself up to speed, there's no doubt about that. But I think Walkup right now already settled in for the final upcoming half an hour of this race, and knowing where the car sits in terms of that pace and what it can do, and that may just help him. As we're hearing into the pits comes Molinari from P2 in the GT3 Pro class, and well, we just see a little prompt come up there on the screen as well, and it is the case. That's a bit of a surprise to the system given that reveal. It's the story of everybody chasing after Campbell for the lead of the GT3 at Pro class, but nobody seeming able to reel him in enough. As meanwhile we see behind it, that's Craig Molnar, who's under a lot of pressure, the GT3 AM class for P3 from Van der Broek, as they make their way out of turn 6 and down towards 7. And these two have been nose to tail for quite some time, ever since Molnar got ahead, and under braking they go here, and you can see Walkup staying well clear. He doesn't want to be any part of this, and what Walkup's trying to do, he wants to latch himself onto the back of those GT3s and then come on through with them when they finally ask essentially the huge ass machine to move out the way. And well, it's not falling the way I think the Van der Broek would want, given the fact that his rival for that P3 position has already got his way on through. But in the end, look at how Van der Broek comes on through, and he boxes in where's the huge ass machine through turn number 10, and this enabled Walkup up to close up massively as they make their way through 11 and down towards the Vidal chicane. And now will he have enough momentum to go for the move? He's looking close, but I do think it's the case that Romano's got a bit of pace in the car, and in fact on the straight here it looks as though Romano, despite the slipstream, is actually opening that gap up and it's not closing. I wonder whether Walkup in that car is either having to save quite a bit of fuel, alternatively whether they just don't have the straight line speed compared to their rivals. What do you think, Sev, as they make their way onto another lap?
I think it's probably a little bit of extra downforce on the rear of that Aston Martin. I think they've gone for a slightly safer strategy. Of course, that 27 machine didn't take part in qualifying due to a number infringement, so they are up a staggering 10 places from where they started. Our highest gainer on the grid is the 26 car. Our race leader just goes through past both GT4s very efficiently, and Sean Campbell doing what he does best, and that is lead races and lead them extremely well. The gap is now out to 15 seconds between him and the 21 car Cawthorne. And while you were talking there, Paul, you noted that Molinari had come into the pits, and I think that's a little bit of a warning sign that all of the drivers that pitted before the hour was up are going to have to make another stop. So you're looking at, your Stefan Jones from Backmarker Racing and a few of the other sort of GTM cars that have pulled into the pits as well. They're gonna have to start. So if we have a look here, you've got the 185 car done, looking like he is going to have to come into the pits. That can't be right, because that would suggest that we're lap 44 was the last time they stopped. I know it would be right. I'm getting all confused in the commentary box here. So yeah, Dunn is looking like he's going to have to come in again. You have to say that Molinar as well, Craig Molinar, is also going to have to come into the pits. And Broek, the 193 car, One of the Porsches is also going to have to think very hard about fuel saving. I think we're going to see strategy play out as we once again head towards the end of the race. Richard Cawthorne at the moment still in second place, inherited that second place after Molinati came into the pits. Number 33 car behind him though, looking ever so racy. We've seen the number 33 car be super deep under brakes in the upcoming chicane, but he is a few laps down. And you know, whenever we do sort of races like this, Paul, you know, we always get the debate about, you know, should cars that are quicker but, you know, are a few laps down, should they be racing the other drivers so hard and sort of getting in the way? And I'd really like to get your thought about, you know, if you are a lap down, do you sort of just have to respect the people around you, or is it just like, well, if I'm quicker, I'm just going to go through?
It's a very difficult one, I must admit. You've given me perhaps one of the most politically charged questions to ask here live on the broadcast. But what I would say is, in my experience, if you are that driver who's a couple of laps down and you definitely feel as though you've got the pace advantage behind a driver who's on the lead lap, if you can make it clear to them by hanging behind them for a lap and essentially not flashing your lights incessantly, but really hanging around, taking that little bit of the nip of the nose to the inside but never going for the move, it sort of signals to the driver in front, look, I know I'm a lap down or multiple laps down, but I've got the pace to come through. And it gets a bit of a signal through. And in the case that we saw for Rich Cawthorne as they were making their way, and it's Tom Mal in the number 33 car, how he came through in the run-up towards Vidal. I think that Mal's been sat there for some time waiting to come through. Cawthorne in the end simply gave him the space. And that's the attitude you want to take. You almost want to be there to intimidate the driver in front slightly. Not too much, but be there constantly telling them, look, I'm here, just let me go. And the thing is, if you're not going to be able to break away after, say, 2-3 laps where you're ahead, say if that gap stays at no greater than half a second, then you do have to respect the blue flags and give the place back. So that's the way I'd play it. But at the same time, if the driver on the lead lap is battling with another driver on the lead lap and you're just there as the spectator, I'd simply say just sit in the car. I know it's frustrating, but enjoy the view of the battle in front of you. And perhaps it's the case the two drivers will take one another out the way for you a little bit later on. But it's a very difficult one because each driver will have their own opinion on it. Indeed, the rule book will get thrown at drivers from time to time when they get it wrong, and they never want to get it wrong, of course. And Stephen Jones here won't be wanting to get it wrong as the backmarker racing yellow driver continues to try and find a way. P4 in the GT3 Pro class past Philip Schwerker, and as they make the way in, the two of them side by side into turn number 10, he goes to the move this time. I think Jones has had enough of seeing that Ferrari in front of him. He goes around the outside of 11, but the Ferrari 488 stays ahead for the time being as they make the way down towards Vidal here, and it is getting very close side by side between the two of them as they make their way to the braking zone for Vidal. But again, Jones just not able to come on through, and I get the feeling that Jones may be getting a little bit frustrated in the cockpit of that Lamborghini Huracan. He just cannot seem to find a way to pass the GT3 Am driver. He'll be enjoying the racing, but it's not the racing he'll want because it's not worth any points battling with the Am.
No, it certainly isn't. I personally know Stefan Jones. We are in the same racing team, so yeah, I know he'll be a little bit frustrated behind, and luckily I think he'll have somebody else in the voice chat with him, just calming him down, as most of these drivers will do, and that's so invaluable just to have somebody who's a little bit more objective as we go back to our GT4 battle for P2 overall, and there's every single class on screen at once. We've got TCRs, GT3s, GT-AMs and GT3 Pros. TCR there getting a little bit racy. They're 3 wide now. One GT4 trying to go around the outside, and the FTR 21 car down the inside into the hairpin. That's Brabham still trying to make his way past the huge S car of Romano, and he's lost a little bit of ground at the moment as we head through Schumacher S's once again, and that FTR car now might be doing Brabham a little bit of favours. He might slow up his main rival into turn 10 as Vulcan Sim Racing with James Hall at the wheel tries to get past the 258 car into turn 10. This is going to be a late dive under braking, hits the apex so well he takes a little bit of grass with him, but that's 4th place for the 207 car. Nice move from him. And will the RD Sim Sport feel a little bit aggrieved by that move and try to come back at him as Sean Campbell is in the pits. Our race leader has come into the pits, which indicates that everybody's going to have to make a stop here, Paul, because Sean Campbell pitted after the hour was done. As there's a GT3 spinning out in the background. That's one of the Stage 1 racing cars. That's their GT3 Am entry going for a little bit of a spin at the final corner. But yeah, Campbell in the pits. He's had to take a splash and dash, which kind of illustrates that every GT3 is going to have to do that.
Yeah, it does look to be the case, and Rich Corfraw has now taken the lead. It's almost as if we get a replay here of what happened for the Stage 1 Racing Green Drive, who went wide coming out of VDOT, and the car just would not settle down before the final corner, and in the end went wide and put two wheels onto the gravel, and the car got taken off into the gravel. Fortunately not trapped there, able to return, but they're just Vanderbroek taking a bit too much speed through VDOT and paying the consequences. But coming back to the topic at hand, I think Corfraw now has to worry about inheriting what is a bit of a poison chalice, this lead of the GT3 Pro class, in the fact that everybody who's led it has at some point either come a crop with regards to an additional pit stop, alternatively an instant. Now, will he have to come into the pits and take some fuel on board? And what I can tell you is that Sean Campbell has come out the pits having only put fuel in the car. He has not put another set of tyres on the car, as I'm to understand it. And well, I think Sean Campbell thinking that he can now hunt down that lead, and Corfraw, if he does not have to make another stop, how much fuel saving is he going to have to do to the end? Surely there's going to be another stop on the cards for him and everybody right now who's currently sitting on 2 stops completed as he makes his way into the braking zone for turn number 10. But meanwhile, here we look back to the battle between what is James Holman and also, I believe that is just in front of him, James Hall, as they roll their way through the Schumacher S's, and Holman, the RD Simsport driver, continuing that fight versus the Vulcan Sim Racing driver. And well, he's still at the disadvantage. He lost the place at this corner last time around as they made their way up into turn number 10 and into 11 they flow. They've got behind there Molinati, who in the GT3 Pro class is wanting to come his way on through, and well, can it be the case that Holman's able to tuck it behind Eric Molinati and gain a little bit in the draft? I don't think so, because Molinati's going to pass the pair of them very quickly there for 12 and up into Vidal. But it is now starting to kick off with regards to that risk of the extra pit stop for the GT3s in particular. But could that also be a factor for some of our GT4 and TCR drivers? Well, we won't worry about that too much at the moment, and Holman's definitely not worried about that as he looked and considered the move up the inside of Hall into the final corner. He's just starting to tempt the move. He's starting to tease it out and trying to get into James Hall's mind with regards to, when am I going to do it? Will it be into this corner? Will it be into that corner? Am I going to lunge up the inside? Am I going to wait? And that's what you don't want as the lead driver in these battles, to have to keep looking in your rearview mirror and thinking to yourself, when is the guy behind going to try and make the move? You want to try and be able to predict when it's coming, but Hall right now definitely, I think, feeling that pressure from Holman as they roll their way down through it towards turn number 3. But as they head through the corner, it is the case that as they make their way in to the next part of the lap coming out of the Mercedes arena, we do seem to have a battle for what is their P2, building up once again the GT4 class, with Giovanni Romano just still ahead of Stephen Walkup, the Brabham eSports Blue Drive, who's been there for some time. And right now these two still running nose to tail, and as they make their way down into the braking zone here, into the hairpin, Walkup getting quite close there on the braking, but nowhere near enough to potentially lunge for the move. I do have to ask, Seb, when you've been running behind your opponent for so long here, and Stephen Walkup in particular, what are you having to do to adjust your driving style? So not just the fuel saving, but you're in that dirty air, of course. These GT4s don't exactly have that much aero on them, and that dirty air does still hurt the front of the car.
Oh, dear, yeah, it's a massive problem for all of them as we see down the inside goes the Brabham eSports car. That's unsettled the huge ass car. That's going to make him go wide. We've got 2 GT3s behind them. They're going to have to wait for the GT4s to sort themselves out. They're still side by side as we exit turn 11. Now the number 44 car is going to try and get past both of them. Brabham eSports are in the lead of the GT4 battle, but Huge Ass is going to try and come back at them as we head towards the braking zone of the chicane. And finally, after laps and laps and laps of waiting and watching, we finally have that switch for second place. But what can Giovanni Romano even do from the cockpit of that Aston Martin GT4? Can he get back past Stephen Walkup? We'll have to find out. 23 minutes left to go. But going back to your point, Paul, you have to adjust a lot. You know, dirty air is a big thing, and you know, especially in the GT3 cars, but the GT4 cars as well, and even the TCRs to an extent, you really have to account for that dirty air. And even, you know, as simple as a driver ahead of you making a mistake, and you just sort of naturally follow the driver into that mistake. It's a really big challenge to follow a driver, and I always find that it's such a good idea, especially if you're doing a long event like this, to practice behind another driver, preferably for a full stint, just to get an idea of what's going on. As you just see Giovanni Romano's last lap time there, a 2-minute 5.2, and that's some way off his best lap time of a 2-minute 1.7. So really struggling for pace out there, but that might just be because of all the traffic he encountered. So have a look at the RPM racing car, the number 44, Brack Crouch at the wheel. And that car has, unfortunately for them, just slipped down the order little by little. They were at one point racing for the win, but through a little bit of bad luck and bad circumstances, they are unfortunately not in that position at the moment. Is Tyler Langenberg, I've just seen, Paul, has had another, just come up on our timing screen there, has had some form of incident out on track, and that's another car that, you know, we were featuring heavily as a contender, or as a contender for the win, but just slipping away. And let's have a look and see what's happened here. And that's a simple just oversteer on exit, so close to the Prismatic 83 car. And that's again another incident that you don't really want to go back to your team and tell them that you've managed to spin outside of on the exit of turn 1, but it's so easily done.
Oh, indeed. And as we ride on board here in the replay to see, he's just gone a bit wide. He got on the power early, and the rear left tyres just lit up, being slightly beyond the track limits. There was a bit less grip on the escape road, and the car has just simply swung round him. And, well, thankfully, not taking the GT3s around him with him. And that would have been a bit of a heart-in-the-mouth moment there as he brings himself back up to speed. But it is one of those cases now when the time's wearing down. You've been in the car for so long, and it's the case the tyres are worn down, the car's light on fuel, the car starts to feel very sketchy, particularly if you try and get up the power aggressively, which of course you want to do no matter where you are in the field, because you want to try and get that best possible lap. You want to go hunt after the driver in front of you. It's the case that sometimes you overstep the boundaries of the car, of what's the available grip and whatnot, and in doing so you just end up with those little moments. And it's about being able to balance your overall feeling of the car and the car's condition. That's what enables you to have that smooth run. As we do see here, Brad Crouch continuing the RPM racing machine to make his way down towards that turn at number 7 here in the RPM racing driver at this point, just focusing, I think, on trying to bring the car on home. And well behind him there, and gradually closing, in fact, that is James Ibrahim, unless I'm not very mistaken there, who after leading this race for quite some time is now all the way down in P11 and chasing after opportunity of a P10 as a minimum. We'll have to wait and see if there's any more places in the post, as they've got 20 minutes on the clock. But the Apex Tech Racing 2 driver has had a bit of a fall from grace in this race, and well, speaking of fall from grace, it's not to be for Neil Ferrier, as the Odyssey Sport 3 driver from the United Kingdom, who right now chasing after Daniel Martin again, and as they make their way through at turn number 5 and into 6, they're battling for P3, and they are really pushing on right now as they roll their way through the corners, and in fact as they come their way down, it is the case they're the fastest of our TCR drivers out on circuit. They're faster than the rest of their peers by the best part of at least a whole second, if not more, lap on lap. And I think RD Simsport 2 and 3 both right now really pushed on and trying to hunt down Stiles and Cook in the remainder of this race. And the gap between Martin and Stiles, to give you an idea, at the moment is in the region of about 13 to 12 seconds. So it is the case of the amount of time remaining, they would ideally need to be taking about about 1.5 seconds a lap out to have a good chance of battling for P2. But beyond that, I think Cook, the leader of what is the TCR class, that's Christopher Cook, he's in a world of his own right now. The best part of 24 seconds clear of these two we see on screen, and 12 seconds ahead of second place man Stiles. And I think Stiles right now may just have one eye on those timing screens, and indeed his pit crew will be thinking about that with regards to the fact that Martin and Ferrier are really pushing on. And well, meanwhile we come back to walk up here. Whoever since passing for P2 the GT4 class, he's holding on versus the huge ass machine. As we see Brabant Esports Blue are just simply keeping it together. They are 15 seconds off of the leader of Muff, and so at the moment they are battling for that P2 position, and I don't think they're focusing on chasing down the leader unless the leader has a huge error. But as they roll the way through 5 and 6, they do have the GT3 behind them there, and I think that's David Van Slambrook as they make their way out of the corners down towards turn number 7. A bit of gravel being picked up there by Walkup, and as he makes his way down towards the hairpin, you'll see the GT3 on the inside there. That's going to take away any opportunity for what is the car behind to go for the move. That's for Romano to try and go for the move. He can't, but instead Romano's going to try and get the best possible exit here and look for the run come the end of the Schumacher S to go up into turn number 10 and go up the inside. And as they roll on through, is the case that as they make their way through 8 and 9, Romano just not able to stay close enough, and actually has to back off here with the number 33 car coming on through. And as they make their way into the break, so Walk Up here made to go a little bit deep into the corner. This actually hurt Walk Up more than Romano was hurt, and you can see Walk Up actually having to stay on a very tight line into turn number 11, and this is everything Romano would have wanted. This is going to give him the opportunity, because now it will be about the draft here. And well, as they make their way through, we cut to Rich Corford. Meanwhile, the leader in the GT3 Pro class, and he's under pressure from out Campbell here. And Sean Campbell has caught up very rapidly since his pit stop at Corfu. I think trying to gradually bring this one to the end of the race, but it's going to be Campbell who's looking for the move up the inside. He doesn't go for it to 5. He waits to go for it a little bit later on here. I think he might be setting the move up for turn number 7 as they roll their way through turn number 6. But Campbell has absolutely flying. In fact, that last lap he took 1.5 seconds out of Corfu. Such is the speed in that Porsche 911, and the fact Corfu has not been in for a third stop yet. And as they make their way into the braking zone here, Campbell biding his moment. And well, I wonder where you think, Seb, he's going to go for the move. Do you think it'll be the end of the run here up to 10? Or will it be later in the lap?
I think with the pace difference that Campbell has over Cawthorne, it's basically anywhere he chooses. Through the Schumacher S's we go. Warning there for the 46 Alpine Stars Geodesic racing down the inside. Does the number 26 car have a look? Thinks better of it though. I think he's going to bide his time now as we head through the right-hander of turn 11. He's going to get on the power earlier and quicker and able just to push through the air. Well, actually, the FTR car is pushing through the air and just allowing the butt kicker by RSR car just to catch up. But interestingly, Campbell not able to make the move into the chicane. And you would have thought that that FTR car does have to save a little bit of fuel because they are yet to make their third pit stop with that splash and dash. But Cawthorne is wide at the final corner of the track, and that's going to allow Campbell to go through. They're going to be 3 wide as they cross the line. Rich Cawthorne, though, still has the ultimate top speed. That Porsche struggling for its straight line speed. It's going to have to be a late deep dive under brakes. Campbell goes for it, gets it neatly stopped, and that is the first place returned to Sean Campbell. Rich Cawthorne down to second, and absolutely a mega stopping power from Campbell there. I think we both did in the commentary box that he wasn't going to be able to make that move, but he did indeed. But Cawthorne, interestingly for me, both had quite a lot of top end speed and also didn't seem too fussed about fuel saving. So whether he didn't really mind because, you know, it's the battle for the lead and, you know, you'll give it a go, or he's actually okay on fuel. So very interesting strategies playing out there at the moment with about 20 minutes left to go of this race. Of course, in about 20 minutes we're gonna have the next race of the Nordschleife, another 2.5 hours. So if you've enjoyed this, stick around because we're going to do it all over again. And this is what happened to Giovanni Romano. This is Hugh Strauss v Brabham Esports once again. They're side by side. Giovanni Romano now takes the lead as we head into the braking zone of the chicane, but walk up there setting himself up, and we see the result of that setting up as we see down the inside goes the Brabham Esports blue car. Gets it nice and neatly tucked down to the inside of turn 1 and past his main rival. So Brabham Esports Blue once again in second place, and Hugh Jas down in third, but that battle still immensely tight, half a second separating those two. It's Craig Molinar now comes into the pits. That was from third in the GT3 AM field. So he has had to make a stop, and Cawthorne as well has come into the pit. So our second place man, I was saying he didn't seem too fussed about fuel saving, and that's why, because he was going to have to make a pit stop anyway. And Philip Schwacker as well, the Track Limit Racing GT3 4A8 car, also comes into the pits. And I hope, for the sake of Backmarker Racing Yellow and Stefan Jones, that those two do not end up on the same piece of racetrack once again, because I think they're both getting a little bit sick of the sight of one another. We'll have to see where those two both sort of end up as Backmarker Racing Yellow. Last lap was a 55.9. Just goes to show, Paul, how much time you lose while lapping other cars, and that's only going to get worse as we move to the second race around the Nordschleife, where there are so many less places to overtake. It's going to be so difficult for the faster cars.
Oh, indeed, and I honestly cannot wait to see how it plays out on the Nordschleife loop, given the fact it's such a tight circuit, and therefore those passing places come at a premium. But just whilst all that was going on, a quick call out to Rob Sutherland, in particular, the RD Simsport driver, who went around the outside of Kosi there, the JD Sim Racing 76 driver in the battle for P8 in the GT3 Pro class. The two of them have been battling, and, well, we're actually going to get the on board here. So Sutherland's on the outside and Kosi on the inside, and you'll see him coming out out the pit lane. So it's actually a battle from the pit lane down towards the corner. And, well, the Czech Republic driver wasn't going to let this one go. And in the end, he tried to get his nose in there. But it was the case that Sutherland decided, you know what, I'm going to commit all the way to it, and got it done there. And it was a brave move by the BMW driver, who could, in other circumstances, have decided to back out. But time's wearing down. And so it's his patience for taking the place. As meanwhile, Giovanni Romano is still in that hot pursuit of what is that P2 in the GT4 class versus Walkup, as they make their way down through 5 and 6. And, well, it does seem as though these two are trading places more than the average market trader trade shares on the stock market floor as they make their way down towards turn number 7, because Romano has been in this pursuing position for some time. And as they make their way into the braking zone, Rob Sutherland into the pits, interestingly. So that pass he made only moments ago on Kosi, it has now been relinquished back to the Czech Republic driver. But right now, the Canadian Giovanni Romano trying to find a way back into that P2 position. But it must be frustrating given the back and forth battle. He'll be enjoying it, but at the same time, he'll just want it all said and done. He won't want to see this battle occur again and again, because each time they pass one another and exchange places, they're only bringing Holman and Hall, who are 10 seconds down the road, a little bit closer. And to be fair, their lap times are not falling off that too much from the battling they're doing. And in fact, these two are the fastest drivers of any in the GT4 class out on circuit. So actually, in retrospect, I don't think they mind battling one another. I think they're quite enjoying this battle for P2.
They certainly are, and we're certainly enjoying it in the commentary box as well, as once again, we head into the chicane, proving to be one of the most popular overtaking opportunities of the race so far. Hugh Just now setting up the move on the Brabham eSports car, going wide into the final corner to cut back, get on the power just that little bit earlier and get the run down towards the turn 1 hairpin. Giovanni now really stalking the back of that Brabham eSports car. He heads to the outside. He's chosen the harder way around the outside. He's going to brake later. He's going to just avoid hitting the apex. He wants that inside line for turn 2, but he's gone in a little bit too deep. That's going to allow the Brabham eSports car the advantage. They're now side by side through turn 2. It's anybody's chance or anybody's game who is going to make it out in the lead. It looks like it's going to be the Hugh Just car. Absolutely mega racing by the two of them. They're still side by side as we head through turns 3 and 4. The Brabham eSports car pushed off the track, but somehow it's still managing to keep a car length alongside the Hugh Just car. Down the inside into turn 5 goes the Brabham eSports car. Slight contact there between the two Aston Martins. They're still side by side through turn 5, and only now does the 27 car manage to just eke ahead of the 237 car, and that move started all the way back in turn 16, but somehow and some way the Brabham eSports car has managed to remain in the lead of this battle as Yannis Ulber has come into the pit. He was in 3rd place, so he has decided that he can't make it on fuel either. So it does look like all of the GT3s is, here comes Giovanni Romano up the inside into turn 10. It'll be a great move if he can do it. Had the run out of the Schumacher S's to the inside he goes. Nothing that the Brabham eSports car can do, and that is the 237 car up into 2nd place once again. But now we've seen Brabham eSports be so good under braking in towards the chicane. Can he do it again? Team Hugh Just knows that, defending to the inside, forcing the Aston Martin to go to the outside of the track. Nothing can be done here, and I wonder now, is Stephen Walkup going to do exactly what Hugh Just did one lap ago and just set up the move through turn 16 to get the run into turn 1, because we saw how close they were and how easy, mixing up my words, how closely it came to working for the 237 car. Walkup only hanging on by an absolute thread as we head to the braking zone of the turn 1 hairpin. Nothing can be done here. Once again, Stephen Walkup now behind the Hugh Just car, and he'll be getting fairly sick of the sight of that Aston Martin. So too is Giovanni Romano, though, off the back of the Brabham eSports Blue. These cars have almost been inseparable for the entire race with about 8 minutes to go. And who do you think is going to come out on top of this battle, Paul?
Oh, goodness me. Well, I think it's very difficult to say, but if I had to put my bets, I think it would be on Romano, just simply for the reason he seems to have a car which gives him a little bit more of an advantage over the entirety of the lap. I think Walkup, if he's able to hook up the lap, does have a really strong run, particularly in the third sector, so coming out of the Dunlop Carrera hairpin here and the run all the way up to turn number 10, but the rest of the lap, it does seem to be the way of Giovanni Romano as they make their way out of the hairpin there. Romano having to take a bit of a deep line given the fact he did have the GT3 car coming on through, but he's holding on for now. And this is where we see that direction change really works out for the Brabham eSports machine as the huge ass machine holds on for now and it's just able to stay ahead. And another thing of contention in the GT3 Pro class, whilst we've been talking about these guys, just been keeping an eye on the timing boards, and Corfraw has come out in P4 after the pit stops and Albert has come out in P3. They're separated by only a 10th of a second currently in the battle for P3, and they're letting Molinati and Campbell run away at P1, P2. So it is a case a lot of drivers now coming together in these final stages, but we stay focused here on the battle for P2 in the GT4 class, and you can see Stephen Walk up there just not able to extract the advantage. He needs to go for the move into the Vidal chicane, and as he comes up into 16, this is where it seems though Walkup just does not have the exit compared to Romano. Romano just seems to have a little bit more run down towards turn 1. As we jump to Philip Schwerker there briefly, but then back to Walkup, as we can see Walkup here doing everything he can to close up, but the Aston Martin in front of him, Romano, just seems to have that straight line speed that gives him that buffer, and that is what I think Romano is banking on. Now he's ahead, as long as he doesn't make any minor mistakes, any minor transgressions beyond his natural racing line, Walkup just will not have that momentum to come on back.
Yeah, it certainly looks like that way at the moment, and of course, for most of the second to last stint, it was this order. It was the huge ass car ahead of the Brabham eSports blue car. So, you know, we know that the 237 car can defend and can defend very effectively. So I think the 27 car of Stephen Walkup is going to have to get very creative if he wants that second place, or maybe he might even think about just sort of taking the third place, bringing home the points and focusing on the second race, of course, at the Nordschleife in only a few minutes' time, as we still have 6 minutes left of racing. That Corfraw Albert battle that you mentioned, Paul, still ongoing. The gap is now extended to a second, but I think that that is another hotly contested battle for one of our podiums of our classes. The GT3 Pro class still up for debate. I think Corfraw, though, actually falling off a little bit more now. The gap is up to 1.6 seconds, 1.7 now, so I wonder if some damage has been inflicted there. Not sure what's going on, but we still remain on this battle. Excuse me, Stephen Walkup there, just stalking the back of that Aston Martin, as we see Richard Corfraw here for the FTR Esports GT3 car. Not anywhere close to the back of Albert. The gap is now up to 6 seconds, so not sure. So I think what's happening is our timing screen has gone a little bit awry, because both Paul and I were thinking that the battle was super close, but unfortunately for the podium, I don't think it is, and that's a little bit sad, because it would have been great to have you know, 2 different class battles for the podium, Paul.
Indeed, but talking away from that for a second, a surprise development in the GT4 class. Daniel Murphy is into the pits. He's dropped to P3. It's a very quick stop, but it is the case. He's lost the leader place, and now the battle between Romano and Walkup, if it wasn't getting enough screen time, now I think it's going to be one of the big centerpieces, because Daniel Murphy has lost that lead. He's got to go hunting with less than 5 minutes to go, and he's 9 seconds down. It must be the case. They've underfueled the car, and they've had to make an emergency stop.
Yeah, he had a 6-second stop in the pit box, so that definitely seems like fuel to me as we have a look here. So he stops. What is going on there? So he's got out of the car and then got back in the car. Is there like a settings change that he's had to make? Because that's really strange from Daniel Murphy leading the race in the Deutsche Payments car for almost the entire race, but unfortunately. So this now battle that was for second place is for the lead. And any idea that I had about the 27 Brabham eSports blue car just saying, well, I'll just take the points, it's gone completely out the window, because there now is a battle for the class victory on the cards. But don't count out the 287 car. If these two continue to battle, maybe get into a little bit of trouble, he could be right back there and in the fight once again. There's a TCR now in front of them. That's the 317 car. They're going to hold up both of our GT4 prospective leaders as we head through turns 10 into turn 11 now. What's going to happen on exit? Who's going to get the better exit? Who's going to be feeling more brave? They're going to make it 3 wide. There's 2 GT3s behind. They're going to have to wait for both of these GT4s to sort themselves out. That's Stephen Walkup to the lead, but Hugh Joust has got the inside line. The GT3 rightly thinks about backing out of that move. Doesn't want to get involved in the class battle. That's the 777 car, who's had their own battles and knows how crucial it is just to stay out of a class battle, but dives it to the inside of turn 16. That's given the advantage firmly in favour of the Hugh Joust car, because Stephen Walkup now on the back foot, and now here comes all of the GT3s. That's the 26 car, that's Campbell in the lead. That's one of the Prismatic Motorsports car as well, to the inside as well, but this now might be advantage Brabham eSports Blue once again. Oh, there's going to be contact into turn 1. They were so close there between the Prismatic number 83 and the Hugh Joust 237 car. Somehow they all get through without any form of damage, but once again we are back to this stalemate. Walkup in second, Hugh Joust in the lead, and what an absolutely incredible race we've got. And it just seems that Walkup can't get past on the straight, or if he gets the run, just Hugh Joust has got just a little bit more pace. Oh, as he's very wide there into turn 5. Where do you think he can get past? Where can you get past if you're feeling a little bit adventurous?
Well, I think he's going to have to look in the Mercedes arena, alternatively in the run up to the turn 7 hairpin here, or up into turn 10, because I think what Walkup's got, he has got more aero on that car, which means on the straights he loses out. But the thing he gains in most is he's just able to be more aggressive on corner exit. And as they roll their way up towards the Schumacher S's now, this is where we see he makes those initial gains, because he's able to take more speed through the corner apexes here. But of course, now that he's getting towards the end, and we did see him make that one little run wide going into turn number 5 and almost losing it under braking. As we see here, Rob Sutherland at P9 in the GT3 Pro class. He is tucked in behind, I do believe that is Thomas Dunn, the GT3 AM driver, as they roll their way through the Schumacher S's. And Sutherland, to be fair, does have behind him as well the GT3 AM driver Craig Molnar, and he's really acting right now as the filling in a GT3 AM sandwich as they make the way all the way round. And meanwhile, Rich Crawford here battling his way down towards turn number 7. That's number 23 car of Stefan Jones. These two battling for P4 in the GT3 Pro class. And in fact, I think we're taking a replay at a change of place. Well, they made the way through here. Crawford going very slowly through turn number 6 there. And, well, Stefan Jones saying, don't mind if I do. And as they made their way down into the braking zone for turn number 7, well, Jones just took the place off of him. And, well, we're hitting that Stephen Walkup has entered the pit lane. Well, that's a very late call to the pit lane. I'm not sure what's happening. He must be out of fuel. It must be the case they got it wrong.
Yeah, so Brabham eSports Blue once again having some form of trouble with their fuel. So I think the GT4s are absolutely to the limit of making this. We've got, I think, either 1 or 2 laps to go, depending on where the leader is at the moment. There's a TCR car. That's one of the Prismatic 389 car. They'll get out of the way very neatly, and the 237 car just has to make it across the line. But do they have enough fuel? Absolute drama here in the final stages of this race. It's been an action-packed race up and down the field from start to finish, and it wouldn't be an FTR race without some form of drama at the end. And just there, any decisions now will be applied as a post-race penalty, so if anybody gets any form of penalty or any incidents are on the track or anything like that, the stewards will be applying post-race penalties instead. And this is Sean Campbell, and I'm pretty sure, Paul, that this is his final lap coming through turn 11 as we head now to Jack Stiles. And he is battling for P2 in the TCR class. That's the number 311 RD Simsport. They're side by side into turn 1. The RD Simsport car has the advantage so far as we head through turn 2, as Sean Campbell comes around the final corner to cross the line to win round 4 of the FTR events. He makes it 3 from 3. Absolutely a great job by him. Craig Molinar's trying to get past the number 58 RD Simsport car. They're side by side as we come towards the final chicane. Can anything be done then? Oh, the RD Simsport stopped. What did he do? Did he have some form of slide that he had to apply the brakes? 146 car there, picking up the brunt of the damage. He's not going to lose the place, but he certainly won't be happy about that. That's the RD Simsport car across the line, and Craig Molinar will come across the line in 3rd place in class. Great racing there as we see another race. This is Tyler Langenberg for the D-Line Racing car, just recovering after the issues that he's had throughout the race. So as the race finishes, so Romano actually, and all of the melee of that, has crossed the line. So the huge ass car has finished as James Hall for Vocal Sim Racing takes the rally cross line through the final chicane. He's going to come across the line in 5th place. But Paul, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. What the hell happened in the GT4 race?
Oh, goodness me. Well, I think it's the case that in the end, with what was that very last minute pit stop for one of our drivers, the Brabham eSports driver, that released Romano just to go running, and well, Romano in the end was given an opportunity to coast the finish, but Daniel Muff as well, I think with that miscalculation on the fuel, he was lapping 2 seconds a lap faster than our GT4 class winner come the end, but Romano has taken it by 5.8 seconds, and as we do see here, Neil Ferrier coming to the end of his race, P2 in the RD Sim Sport machine in the TCR class here, a well-deserved P2 ahead of Styles, who came home P3, and then Martin in the end, that is Daniel Martin at P4 in the TCR class. As we also see here, Andy Fox coming to the end of his race right now, one of our very last drivers to complete their race here in round number 3 at the Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecker Circuit, as he makes his way through the final corner here. And the Brabham eSports Hissing Sid driver will be happy with this result. It's been a very hard-earned result and plenty of momentum for them to take on to the Nordschleifer in the near future as he crosses the line. But that is all of our drivers across that finish line and taking the checkered flag, and well, what a race it has been, Seb.
What a race indeed. FTR never fails to deliver, and we even had action on the very final corner of the race. But here are your GT3 race results. RSR by butt kicker FTR come home across the line with once again another win. That's 30 points to add to their tally. Up by SARS Geodesic, though, come home in 2nd place. That's their best results of the season. And Brabham eSports come home in 3rd place. So that's the first time they finish outside of the top 2. Backmarker Racing Yellow recovered to 4th place with FTR Esports GT3 in 5th place. Track Limits Racing GT3 488 come across the line in 6th place, but they take the GT3 AM victory. Congratulations to them. Absolutely mega race from their side. JD Sim Racing 76 come across the line in 7th place. Then we have our first of our GT3s to be 1 lap down. Prismatic Motorsports Athena 8th with Atlantic Motorsports 9th, and Bert Simsport rounds out the top 10. Track Limit Racing GT3 911 is 11th place, 1 lap down. They score 2 points for their tally. In 12th place goes to Sim Racing Grid M4. They are the last of our point scorers in the GT3 class. Apex Tech Racing FTR2, the number 31 car, is 13th. RPM Racing finishes a lowly 14th place as we head towards our GT3 AM race results. So Track Limits 488 are your race winners, but SimSport 2nd, and Track Limit Racing GT3 911 come across the line in 3rd place. A great job by both of the Track Limit Racing cars in the GT3 AM class. We move towards our GT4 race results. Actually, we'll have a look. So it's a huge ass that come across the line as the winner, the unexpected winner of the GT4. Deutsche Payments recover to 2nd place. RD Simsport up to 3rd in Brabham eSports Blue, who were racing for 2nd place for most of the race, have to settle for 4th place. Vulcan Simsport rounds out your top 5 in the GT4 class, and we'll have a look at the TCR results as we see FTR Esports TCR comes across the line as the winner. RD Simsport 3 is 2nd place, and Orbit Motorsport Mars will have to settle for 3rd place after them battling on the final lap of the race. RD Simsport 2, unusually for them, not right next to their teammate. It seems like they've been together all race, but they ended up being split by the Orbit Motorsport Mars car, and Brabham Esports Hissing Sid comes across the line to round out your top 5 in the TCR class. An absolutely stellar debut race for Brabham Esports. As I think, Paul, we're going to have a little few interviews with some of our drivers. I'm going to let you have a first pick. Who would you like to have a little bit of a chat to?
Well, I think it would be good to kick off by speaking to one of our huge-ass drivers, and in particular Sven, who it was the first of their 2 drives today after what was a brilliant drive to victory. And as he joins us in the commentary room, Sven, I do have to firstly say congratulations to you and your teammate Giovanni Romano for a fantastic result and that win in the end in the GT4 class. But I do have to ask you, was there a bit of a surprise on both your faces when you saw that Daniel Muff had to come into the pits right at the end?
No, not at all. Actually, we knew that he has to pit again. And the same goes for Steam Walkup, who were fighting as well. We knew they weren't saving. They came to the pits a lap earlier than we did. And it was tight for us to save that. So we knew, unless they do massive saving, which they didn't, they have to come in again. So actually, we were looking at the win the entire time and just hope not to wreck.
Well, that is absolutely brilliant to hear. And speaking about looking at the win, we did say from the outset of this race, a great battling between yourself and the Bradman eSports Blue Driver and also that pursuit of the Deutsche Payment Def Omen team. And the three of you running nose to town for pretty much 75% of the race, P1 through to P3. Was that always the strategy, to be in that fight but not fighting too hard?
Yeah, I think after the race, and it was all about just keeping up with Ben. And I think he definitely had my number on the opening stint, and I just kept up in the draft. So the plan was just don't do anything stupid, just keep up with Ben, and the race will be won at the end. And yeah, in the second stint we realized, okay, we can make it on fuel, so I saved a little bit. Still kept up with Ben, which was surprising, but obviously I was happy about it. And yeah, coming into the final stint we knew just save the fuel and we'll win this.
Oh, indeed. Just before we let you go to get ready for round number 4 as part of this double header, the Nordschleife, are you guys looking forward to it, or is it a circuit where it's going to be about damage limitation?
I think we're going to be fine, but it's my first time driving the Aston, and it's really awkward how little you can see. Like, the sitting position is really weird, and with the high curbs at the Nordschleife, I'm actually worried that I might not see a curb hit it and wreck our car. So I'm worried about that, but pace-wise, I think we're there.
Well, we look forward to seeing you guys out of the circuit, but once again, congratulations to yourself and your teammate Giovanni Romano for a deserved win in the GT4 class at the Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecker circuit.
Thank you very much.
So, Seb, we've heard from our winner in the GT4 class. Who else do you think we should bring into the commentary box for an interview?
Let's have a very quick chat to one of the Deutsche Payments Death Omen drivers. Let's have a quick chat with him. Really nice to have you in the commentary box with us, Ben. Talk us through your race, because it looked like you had that win almost certainly, and then right at the end you had to make that pit stop.
Yeah, we kind of we got the strategy wrong today, unfortunately. Yeah, we pitted a lap early just to be safe. Basically, I think we didn't want to kind of get caught with the safety car and then run out of fuel, basically. So we came in one lap early, and that was what kind of made the difference in the race. I probably should have saved more fuel at the start as well, but yeah, it wasn't for us today. Well, happy to get the pole position, but yeah, still happy with the second, and congrats to the podium. Well done. It was good fun.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it out there. GT4 just always deliver so much action. So you're heading obviously to the Nordschleife now. We'll have a quick interview so you can make sure that you can go and load in and get ready for that. How are you feeling about your chances around there?
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to this race. Daniel's a bit of a whiz around the Nordschleife, so he's going to be qualifying and starting for us. And yeah, I really like this track. I've been practicing a lot for the last, 8 months, I think. So yeah, love this track and looking forward to the race.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that. Well, we wish you the best of luck for round 4 or race 2 of tonight. So we'll let you go, and yeah, all the best from all of us at the commentary box.
Lovely stuff. Thanks a million, lads. Talk to you soon.
That was the second place man in the GT4 class. And Paul, I'm going to do, and let's have a very, very quick chat to Neil Ferrier. He is the RD SimSport 3 car. Let's have a very quick chat to him. Why don't you have a very quick chat to Neil Ferrier, Paul?
Indeed. Well, welcome to the commentary box, Neil. And, well, just a quick question. Race in the end, coming home at P2. It looked as though it was a good result out there. Was it the result you guys expected?
Yeah, to be fair, it was a wee bit better than I thought it would. Unfortunately, my teammate Dan just ran out of tyres towards the end there, so yeah, I caught him at the wrong time into turn 1. So I just had to go around the outside. Luckily Dan he left me space, so yeah, to get around Dan to start with it was good.
Well, indeed, it looked fantastic out there. Sorry, we're going to have to cut you a little bit short, but we do wish you and your teammate all the best of luck in the build-up to the Nordschleife race, and we look forward to seeing you out there on circuit again very shortly. Congratulations on the result.
Thanks, boys.
So that was it for race number 1. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Total Sim Sport channel. We'll be right back in a few minutes time for race 2 at the Nordschleife. You'll be hearing a different voice in the commentary box. I'll be slipping away. As much as fun that I have had in the commentary box, I'm swapping the commentary box for